What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 8 Light Years Chapter 176 Dazzling Achievements, introducing Chu Han into the Longwu Division. The old-fashioned rusty cruise ship swayed forward on the sea, leaving a twisted ripple behind it. Obviously, the helmsman's driving skills are not very good. There was a lot of voices on the deck. Although these young people from the Dragon Kingdom had just escaped from danger, they seemed to be enjoying themselves at this moment, and they couldn't stop commenting on the scenery on the sea. There is no panic atmosphere in the rest of the life after the catastrophe. The young professionals of the Dragon Kingdom focus on optimism. Suddenly, the hull tilted sharply, like a high-speed car making a sharp turn. The people admiring the sea view were unprepared. The huge inertia caused them to lose their balance, rolled a few times on the deck, and smashed heavily on the fence. Damn it, Chu Han, can you do it? How does this boat work? What are you doing? You fell to my death. Why are you leaving this sailboat? This captain is unreliable. Help, my head is stuck in the railing. There were complaints one after another, all expressing their dissatisfaction with the helmsman. At this time, a small head protruded from the cab, with a panicked expression on its face. Hurry up, everyone, there is a ship coming from the opposite side, it is about to collide. With the shout of the helmsman Chu Han, everyone on the deck looked in the direction of the cruise ship. I saw a huge red and white battleship approaching on the opposite side tens of meters away. That warship is like a giant steel beast. If this little wrecked ship of mine collides with it, it will probably be smashed to pieces. Chu Han knew only a little about navigating a ship. In a critical moment, he could only hold on to the aging steering wheel, leaving the rest to fate. Sailing at sea, the distance of tens of meters is within a blink of an eye. The old-fashioned cruise ship was quickly swallowed by the shadow of the giant battleship. Although Chu Han's operation was a mess, fortunately, the other party's pilot seemed to be experienced. Once he deviated from the direction, the two ships missed close to each other, avoiding a disaster. Where is the stupefied young man? Luo Dang stood on the edge of the battleship and looked down. After seeing the situation on the other ship, he couldn't help being startled. Afterwards, he jumped onto the deck of the opposite ship, scanning everyone with a majestic expression. The young people retreated vigilantly, thinking that they had encountered a legendary pirate. The man who appeared suddenly had a face like a blade, eyes like a wolf, and a palpitating aura about him. One could tell at a glance that he was a ruthless man, and he must have burned, killed, and looted in this sea area.
Hey, where is Chu Han? Did he save you? Luo Dang asked, interrupting everyone's guess. You know Chu Han. Someone said boldly. Hey, look, this ship belongs to the Longwu department. Before Luo Dang could answer, someone shouted again. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes turned to the giant ship. The mighty dragon head symbol representing the dragon armor department caught everyone's eyes. You are from the Dragon Warrior department, not a pirate. Hearing this, Luo Dang frowned, took off his straw hat and rubbed it against his chest. What kind of pirate? I don't understand what you're talking about. Tell me quickly why Chu Han is not with you. Knowing the other party's identity, these young people from the Dragon Kingdom naturally had nothing to hide, and they explained to Luo Dang all about Chu Han's previous rescue. After understanding the ins and outs, Luo Dang couldn't help smiling, looking a little proud.
It's really a good thing this kid did. This is a great achievement. Immediately, he asked the crowd again. What about the others, why didn't they come back with you? Everyone replied. He has returned to the bottom of the sea again, and we don't know what to do. Hearing this, Luo Dang thought to himself, it must be Chu Han who discovered his sister's trace and went back to look for it. The crisis is lurking there, we have to help him as soon as possible. Thinking so in his heart, Luo Dang returned to the battleship and told the guards. Xiao Lu, take 2 of you and send these children back to Guling Mountain. The rest of you will follow me to meet Chu Han.
Yes, Guard Xiao Lu responded loudly. By the way, there is one more thing. Luo Dang paused and continued, the letter of introduction I wrote before recommending Chu Han to join the Longwu department can be handed in. Rescued hundreds of Dragon Kingdom hostages with his own efforts, and caused no casualties. Such a dazzling achievement is the perfect stepping stone to enter the Longwu department.
Understood. After receiving the general's order, Xiao Lu carried it out immediately, escorting the hostages home with 2 soldiers from the Longwu department. Luo Dang led the rest of the people to resume sailing, and at the same time sent a message to Chu Han to inquire about the situation. When Chu Han regained his sight, it was already dark around him. The pulling force generated by the vortex just now made him faint for a short time. At this moment, the only thing Chu Han could feel was that there was no water around him and he was in the air. In the unfamiliar environment and endless darkness, Chu Han could not help but feel helpless. In order to preserve his physical strength, he terminated his Shira form, returned to his original state, put on his clothes with the help of his weak sight, and then continued to observe his surroundings. After adapting to the darkness, Chu Han could probably see some things clearly. At this time, he was in a passage with weird statues placed on both sides of the passage. They seem to be engraved in bronze. The statues are all snakes with 4 limbs, standing on 2 hind legs, holding various weapons in their hands, like soldiers guarding the palace.
To be honest, Chu Han usually hates snakes. They are cold and slippery, like a body without bones. Thinking about them makes his scalp numb. Temple of Light. Like fruit growing on the tips of slender branches, this space was surprisingly large. When Chu Han stepped into it, he could hear a faint echo from the distance.
It seemed that he was getting closer and closer to it. Fortunately, there was only one passage, so Chu Han didn't have to think about the route, he could just keep walking forward. He walked for about 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, Chu Han couldn't remember clearly. In short, he came to a very open space. However, when Chu Han lowered his head, looked down, and saw the scene under the tree, his pupils suddenly tightened. Chu Han rubbed his arms and kept releasing the blue sea tide to avoid unknown dangers approaching. The giant tree looms in the dark space, making people feel their own insignificance when standing in front of it. And these snake-shaped statues are made to look like humans, making them even more weird. The forbidden light spell was released, and the holy temple appeared in the sky, lighting up the entire space. As for what he could find at the end of the passage, Chu Han remained hopeful, but also a little scared. The giant tree has a magnificent crown, almost flush with the dome. It is difficult to imagine why such a 1,000-year-old tree exists deep under the sea. What the hell is this place? Here, there are still vines from the flower demon from the other side, and they are denser than before. He raised his head. The dome was pitch black. He didn't know how high it was, but he could see a towering tree standing alone directly in front of him. Chu Han stood still, feeling a deep chill in his face, and he always felt vaguely that there seemed to be some terrifying creature dormant here, making him instinctively fearful. After a long journey, Chu Han didn't know how far he had walked inside, but his body could feel that the temperature was getting lower and lower, and it gradually became biting. Chu Han didn't want to look any further and walked along the passage inside. Chapter 177 Sis, please bless me. It was an indescribably huge snake. It was coiled around the trunk of the ancient tree, and the surface of its body shone with cold light, like a mountain of flesh covered with scales. Under the holy light of the Temple of Light, the giant snake's scales glowed brightly, exuding bursts of fierce and ferocious aura. It was unknown how many creatures it had devoured before it could accumulate such an evil and terrifying aura. Chu Han was deeply shocked. This kind of creature must come from hell and is definitely not found in the human world. Before the Temple of Light disappeared, he quickly checked the giant snake's information. Name: Yamada no Orochi, sleeping. Attribute: Old Evil God. Level: LV.640, Health Volume: 8 billion, 8 billion. Physique: 2,468,732. Open black lens bracket power: 2,505,783 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket wisdom: 2,743,594 close black lens bracket. Agility: 2,235,483. Open black lens bracket spirit: 2,157,354 close black lens bracket. Combat power value: 56,215,834. Skills: Broken Power, Poseidon's Wrath, Immortal Soul, God's Fallen Sacrifice, Rotten Soul's Poison, Demonic Armor, Disaster of Rifting River, Ring of Fate. The light disappeared. Darkness surged in again, crawling onto Chu Han's frightened face, swallowing it up bit by bit, and sweeping across the entire space. In the deathly silence, Chu Han's slightly trembling breathing could be heard. 56 million combat power. This number was almost beyond his comprehension. According to common sense, the combat power of monsters is generally relatively high, because they have little intelligence and only rely on instinct to fight. Therefore, with the same combat power, humans can crush monsters. However, this 56 million is indeed a bit exaggerated. Under absolute strength, the so-called wisdom is nothing more than a joke. Before coming, Chu Han was already prepared to face a strong enemy, but when he saw the attributes of Yamada no Orochi, he still found it difficult to accept it. How the hell do you fight this? Fortunately, this behemoth is still sleeping. As long as you prevent Jiro Kobayashi from waking it up, you can temporarily avoid a disaster. After returning home, I will discuss a solution with General Luo. The matter of dealing with the Yamada no Orochi still has to be left to the Dragon Arms department. Chu Han came to his senses. Thinking of Jiro Kobayashi, he felt a little puzzled. The entrance to the place where Yamada no Orochi sleeps is right under the Ascension Altar. So does Jiro Kobayashi know what's going on here? After briefly analyzing the logic, Chu Han felt that he probably didn't know. The main purpose of Kobayashi Jiro's troubles was to arrest people to activate the Ascension Altar. He would have never imagined that the entrance to the place where Yamada no Orochi sleeps would require breaking the altar to be discovered. Would Jiro Kobayashi be willing to smash the ultimate item that can directly enter the 10th rotation? I definitely can't bear it. If he doesn't hug the altar and kiss it 100 times a day, he's not perverted enough. Ignore him for now. Chu Han put away his messy thoughts. The most important thing now was to find traces of the flower demon on the other side. Looking around,
There was no light source at all, so he had no choice but to release the Temple of Light again. However, this time he was much more careful and kept the power to the lowest level.
If you accidentally wake up the Yamata no Orochi, it will be lively. In this sea area, the nearest land is the Dragon Kingdom. According to the settings of the evil gods of the old days, as soon as they wake up, they will attack the nearest humans. In order not to cause trouble to the country, Chu Han bent down, and the Temple of Light lit up at his fingertips like an old light bulb. With the help of the twilight, Chu Han quickly found the dense vines on the ground, and followed it all the way.
Lowering his head and walking slowly, Chu Han tried his best not to make a sound, and the Yamata no Orochi next to him exuded a faint smell of rotten meat, which was refreshing. As he was walking, Chu Han suddenly stopped, and he felt that he was enveloped by a huge aura, like the feeling of a docile kid being sent to Wolf's castle. A chill ran down his spine. Chu Han slowly straightened up and looked forward. In the afterglow of the Temple of Light, Chu Han could see clearly that in front of him, there was a 2-story high snake head lying on the ground, as if sleeping. Chu Han's scalp tingled for a while, and he walked to the other side of this space without knowing it, and he was even closer to Yamata no Orochi. Yamata no Orochi has 8 heads and 8 tails. The one in front of me should be one of the snake heads. Chu Han held his breath and looked up. This huge snake head has shiny scales and exudes a slippery luster. There is a clear layer of transparent crystal film outside the eyes on both sides.
It is sleeping, quietly like a well-behaved baby. To be honest, if it wasn't too big, the snake would actually look pretty good. Well, Chu Han sighed and shook his head. He's been single for too long, even a snake looks pretty. Suddenly, at the moment when the Temple of Light disappeared, Chu Han seemed to have discovered something. The skills continue to improve, and the light shines again. This time Chu Han saw it very clearly. Many of the scattered vines around him, the worry-relieving vines belonging to the flower demon of the other side, gathered here and got into the mouth of Yamata no Orochi. Chu Han widened his eyes and checked repeatedly until he was convinced that he was right. The vines of the flower demon on the other side protruded from the mouth of Yamata no Orochi. In other words, the flower demon of the other shore is in the belly of Yamata no Orochi. An old evil god living in the belly of another old evil god? What kind of living condition is this? Parasitic? Or symbiosis? Or is the two making some kind of weird PY deal? Chu Han didn't bother to think about it, and didn't care about it.
All he cared about was Chu Shi. According to the previous thinking, Chu Shi was with the flower demon of the other side, so now it seems that she is also in the belly of Yamata no Orochi. My sister, what have you been through? Chu Han was about to go crazy. It was hard to imagine what horrific things happened to Chu Shi in the process of hunting the flower demon on the other side. But now is not the time to worry about these things. For Chu Han, there are only 2 ways to find Chu Shi. He let out a long breath, prepared himself mentally, spread out the wings of Fengling, and stretched his legs to get inside. Second, get into the belly of Yamata no Orochi by yourself. With a muffled sound, the unsuspecting Chu Han was directly hit, and was kicked dozens of meters away. If he messes around and wakes up Yamata no Orochi, or inadvertently breaks a certain balance and endangers the 2 little lives in his stomach, it will be over. Damn, fight. The only problem is that it's too disgusting. With the absorption skill of Mirror of Beginning, the invincibility of Dictatorship Field, and the damage reduction of Wind Spirit Wings, Chu Han is not afraid of danger. Old sister, bless you, you must be inside, don't let your brother go there for nothing.
Chu Han immediately denied the first one. The stench accumulated from not brushing his teeth all his life hit his face, and Chu Han almost vomited. But this second way. Gritting his teeth, he walked to the snake's head with difficulty, grasping the upper jaw with both hands. First, peel the belly of Yamata no Orochi. And at this moment, in the darkness, an imperceptible figure came quickly, with legs protruding like a whip, and swept directly across Chu Han's chest.
Boom. Along the way, Chu Han's only purpose was to find Chu Shi, and now he was probably separated from her by a belly, and he couldn't back down no matter what he said. The huge 2-story high snake head weighs about tons, but the physique of a professional is different from ordinary people. Chu Han gritted his teeth and used all his strength to lift the tightly closed snake mouth out of a gap. It's not that they are cowardly, but the main reason is that they still haven't figured out what kind of living conditions the flower demon and Chu Shi are.
Chapter 178. Stop it, Kobayashi Jiro. The Buddha is angry with the common people. Ghost Dao Shira Field. The moment he was blown away by that huge force, Chu Han also locked on to the attacker and activated his skills instantly. The overlapping purple lines infect the darkness. Sumeru Realm is coming. Chu Han and the attacker were pulled into it, and there was enough light to see each other. Damn, the clothes are rotten again. Chu Han cursed, then looked at Kobayashi Jiro opposite. You are finally here. Although he knew that this guy would show up sooner or later, he didn't expect to come here at such a critical moment, and Chu Han's teeth itched with hatred. Kobayashi Jiro's face was gloomy and cold. He didn't panic at all because he was pulled into another world. Instead, he exuded a strong murderous aura from his whole body. Ascension Altar, you destroyed it? A hoarse voice sounded, and Kobayashi Jiro clenched Muramasa tightly in his hand, his body tensed like a bow full of arrows. After hearing this, Chu Han smiled mockingly. I did it, what's wrong, are you upset? Oh, by the way, apart from that broken altar, I also smashed your alchemy equipment, killed all your subordinates, and confiscated those primary potions. Hearing Chu Han list his crimes, like a few treasures, the corner of Kobayashi Jiro's mouth twitched, and his mentality immediately collapsed. Big tornado. The village is waving, and countless lightning blades strike, forming an invincible storm of silver mist in the purple space. Yo, are you in a hurry? Chu Han was still full of taunts, facing the sweeping blade tornado. Chu Han immediately spread out the wind spirit wings. Two pairs of fleshy wings stretched out from behind. Chu Han did not dodge or dodge, he wanted to take this opportunity to verify his guess. Clang clang, the blade storm slashed on Chu Han's body that looked like a demon god, making the sound of metal collisions. Chu Han gritted his teeth, the sharp pain seemed to cut his body open. But if you look closely, you can see that not a single drop of blood has been knocked out. At the same time, a silver energy ball lit up on Chu Han's palm. It was the mirror of beginningless spirit that triggered it. Before that, Chu Han was still wondering whether a skill like this, sword chi, could cause harm to him.
It now appears that there is already an answer. Sure enough, even if it is a physics-based profession, as long as you stab yourself directly without holding a weapon, it is impossible to cause harm to yourself. Back to you. Chu Han's right arm shook, and he threw the energy ball towards Kobayashi Jiro. The latter turned slightly sideways, and with a flash of blue light, Muramasa split the sphere in half. Juhei slash. Cut off everything in the world, even flames and lightning without a solid form can be cut, even a mere energy ball is not a problem. You seem to have become stronger than last time. Kobayashi Jiro came lightly, with violent anger in his calm tone. Open black lens bracket ghost Dao bookmaking array close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket ghost road infernal prison close black lens bracket. The two skills are released at the same time. The mysterious Sanskrit array lit up, trapping Kobayashi Jiro in it, and then, the infernal sword prison appeared, and huge swords protruded from the ground one after another, forcing Kobayashi Jiro, who was impaired in movement, into a panic. Still with the same formula, Kobayashi Jiro couldn't resist the shadowy sword prison at all, so he could only keep dodging, and took the time to swing Muramasa to cut off the giant sword emerging from the ground. Add some more ingredients for you. Chu Han first drank 2 bottles of Yushu liquid, which is a special elixir provided by the Longwu department, which can replenish himself with a steady stream of energy, so as not to be forced to end the battle due to exhaustion. The next moment, the pure black lightning liquid rolled over, turned into a thunder dragon and slashed down. At the same time, the endless sky flame exploded, and together with Kwang Lei, devoured Kobayashi Jiro fiercely.
It was almost the same combat method as the last fight, the difference was that this time Chu Han had the elixir to replenish his physical strength, so he could cast the forbidden curse without any worries. Boom. Boom. Within the range of the bookmaking formation, it was quickly overwhelmed by the continuous release of fire and thunder curses. Chu Han didn't dare to stop. Given the level gap between him and Kobayashi Jiro, it was very difficult to kill him, so he must not stop his skills and win by quantity. However, before Chu Han felt tired, he suddenly noticed a cold killing intent coming from behind him. The Red Lotus is destroyed. Kobayashi Jiro didn't know when he came behind him. When Chu Han turned around, he held the sword in both hands and slashed down in the air. Yaodao village seemed to be infused with huge power, and in the hands of Kobayashi Jiro, it swelled and transformed into a 40-meter-long machete in an instant. The machete was slashing at his head, and it was too late for Chu Han to dodge, so he raised his arms in desperation, and struck with both palms, directly clamping the 40-meter machete firmly. He actually awakened the magic skill, 100% empty-handed to catch the sword. Chu Han couldn't help but teased in his heart, and then roared. Ni Mie Quanglei. The Black Thunder Dragon slashed at Kobayashi Jiro again. The latter hastily withdrew his weapon, dodged backwards, got into the star cave, and appeared 20 meters away. Chu Han took advantage of the victory to pursue, and the lightning-type forbidden curse followed one after another. But Kobayashi Jiro became cunning. Whenever Thunder Dragon attacked, he would use the star hole to dodge and wander outside, carefully looking for opportunities to attack. Seeing Kobayashi Jiro shuttle back and forth under the bombardment of the forbidden curse, dodging infinitely, Chu Hanchi gritted his teeth. Starry Sky Rogue, you are really a rogue. The end of your journey. The purple dome began to tremble, and a diamond-shaped boulder fell from the sky, followed by the second and third in an instant. In a short period of time, a meteor shower that destroyed the world formed and bombarded the Zumi realm indiscriminately. Kobayashi Jiro has to bear the negative emotions brought to him by making books, and he has to avoid the attack of the sword prison non-stop. In addition, thunder dragons and meteorites falling from the sky hit him from time to time, making him look more and more embarrassed. Through the trial just now, he also understood that long-range attacks are ineffective against Chu Han, and he must find a way to get closer. However, now that he can guarantee that he will not be killed, he will use all his strength, and he will fight back flawlessly. Do you want to use potions? Kobayashi Jiro had a crazy thought in his heart. As long as he swallows the advanced potion, he can gain supreme power and defeat Chu Han, but in that case, he will also become a monster and lose consciousness. No, I can't, Xiao Nai hasn't been saved yet, I can't. Thinking of his dead lover, Kobayashi Jiro fell into madness, slashed at the surroundings with the demon sword, impotent and furious.
Chu Han stayed on the periphery, looking at the enemy who was about to be tormented mad by him. He couldn't help smiling. If it goes on like this, Kobayashi Jiro will definitely not last long. At this time, the system prompt sounded. Chu Han stepped back a certain distance, and opened the panel. Open black lens bracket Luo Dang. Chu Han, what's going on with you? I've arrived at the coordinates, and the troops of the Longwu department will come to support me soon. Close black lens bracket. Shen Xingchen. Don't be afraid, my dear, the old man has already finished coding, and I'm here to save you now. Close black lens bracket. ... The sword prison like the tarsal maggot made him manic, anxious, and angry, and the bookmaking array magnified these negative emotions infinitely. Shut up, Kobayashi Jiro, there are all Dragon Kingdom professionals outside, you can't escape. The support from his hometown made Chu Han feel a wave of heat in his chest. Shen Xinling. Chu Han, you have to protect yourself, don't be brave, the teacher will be here soon. Close black lens bracket.
Although Kobayashi Jiro did not swallow the potion, he was no different from a beast at this time. This time, he is not fighting alone. Ma bombing. Chu Han, you have to hold on. All combat professionals in Zhongling City are supporting the way back to the sea. This time we Zhongling people are still fighting the enemy together, close black lens bracket. Not only the Church of Spirituality, but even members of the Royal Knights, my sister's old unit also came. I don't know if Zhang Yi has found out the cause of the death of the vice captain. After reading Luo Dang's news, Chu Han found that there were many other unread messages. Besides, what excited Chu Han the most was the news about Ma bombing, who actually mobilized all Zhongling people to support him. Looking at each piece of news, Chu Han's eyes were rosy, and his blood was boiling. Turning off the panel, Chu Han looked at Kobayashi Jiro again. The eyes of this ferocious trapped beast were like blood, and it was almost crazy. He tried his best to shuttle through the star cave until he reached the dome, and slashed at the purple border violently. Chu Han laughed at his behavior, and shouted loudly, "Stop struggling. Zhang Yi. You are so fierce, I am the captain of the future, going to do Yamada no Orochi alone? This is so King cool. By the way, is there any news about Captain Chu Shi? Those of us old troops have assembled and are rushing back to the sea, close black lens bracket." Chapter 179 The Seal of Yamada no Orochi, Amazono Cloud Sword. Kobayashi Jiro turned a deaf ear to Chu Han's words, and continued to pour all his offensives on the purple dome, even ignoring the damage caused by the sword prison and meteor rain. Soon, under the crazy destruction of Kobayashi Jiro, the Zumi realm gradually showed signs of collapse. This guy wants to forcibly break open the Shira field? Chu Han had a sullen face. Although he didn't know the other party's intentions, he couldn't let the enemy get what he wanted. Thinking of this, Chu Han suddenly spread the fleshy wings behind him, and the huge Shira body was in the dark Sumeru realm, like a god and demon descending into the world. Although more support from the outside world is coming, Chu Han still intends to kill Kobayashi Jiro as much as possible by himself, lest he cause more casualties. Chu Han deeply understood that with the strength of this lunatic boy, he could definitely do it. Dictatorship field. Samsara whispers. The black ice spread out, turning the purple space into a world of ice. At the same time, the dark forbidden spell was also used, and Chu Han wanted to try to kill Kobayashi Jiro again. Kaga. The ice world spreads, and when the black ice was about to trap Kobayashi Jiro, he turned around suddenly, and Muramasa's demon light flourished, and a fierce aura shot out from the sky. Swastika. Draw your sword and slash. The sharp blue light swayed in a ring shape, and under Kobayashi Jiro's crazy gaze, the entire ice world was chopped to pieces, even the wall of the purple dance on the edge of the Sumeru world was cut off by the sharp light. Boom. Suffering a devastating attack, the Zumi realm couldn't bear it anymore and collapsed. The world fell into darkness again, and Chu Han returned to the sleeping place of Yamada no Orochi. Soon he discovered that a light source appeared here at some point. Although it was very faint, it was enough to provide a line of sight. He looked up, and it turned out that there were stars shining in the branches of the 1,000-year-old tree, barely breaking through the darkness. Not far away, Kobayashi Jiro leaned on the ground with his sword, swaying profusely, half kneeling and breathing heavily. Chu Han didn't need to guess to know that this guy must have used a low-level potion, so just now his attributes increased greatly, so he was able to break through the Sumeru realm and escape. At this time, when the side effects of the potion occurred, he entered the state of a sage. Now, I am afraid that any random 7th-rank professional can defeat Kobayashi Jiro. Why bother? Why is it not a death? Do you still want to die more heroically? Chu Han did not hesitate to ridicule, and approached Kobayashi Jiro step by step. Death? He. Kobayashi Jiro showed that annoying smile again. Someone will die today, but it's not me, but you. Baki Orochi will make you Dragon Kingdom people pay the price you deserve. Hearing this, Chu Han sneered. I'm still thinking about your persuasive snake, you won't lie to others, so you believe it? If I'm not mistaken, the professionals you captured from the Dragon Kingdom are not food for awakening Yamada no Orochi, but sacrifices for you to activate the Ascension Altar.
Kobayashi Jiro's face changed slightly. Chu Han continued. Even if I guessed wrong, those professionals were all rescued by me. What do you use to wake up Yamada no Orochi? Wake up one and show me, trash. Chu Han was thinking just now that when he entered here, he was sucked in by the snake head under the altar, and the movement was quite disturbing. And Kobayashi Jiro appeared quietly, and he was able to launch a sneak attack on himself, indicating that he came in from another normal entrance. At the same time, this also shows that it is by no means the first time that Kobayashi Jiro has entered this place. He has long known that Yamada no Orochi is sleeping here. From the very beginning, Kobayashi Jiro tried to use the power of Yamada no Orochi to destroy the Dragon Kingdom, so he might know some ways to awaken Yamada no Orochi. If he doesn't know, it doesn't matter. But if he knew, why didn't he do it? There is only one possibility. That is, the awakening method he mastered will make Yamada no Orochi fall into a weak state. This is the setting of the old evil god. Just like the dark heavenly dragon back then, it forcibly woke up because of its vengeance, which caused it to be covered with an extremely weak debuff, and then Dangkang, who was summoned by Chu Han, was crushed to death alive, which was extremely miserable. Therefore, at this time, Chu Han kept stimulating Kobayashi Jiro with words, in order to force him to use that method that he didn't know existed to wake up Yamada no Orochi. Wake it up now, it will still have a weak buff. If it wakes up by itself one day, then the real doomsday will come.
56 million combat power, take the lead. Instead of putting a time bomb here, it's better to fight with the weak version of Yamada no Orochi. Dude Donkong, even a dragon can kill a dragon, I'm afraid you won't be a stinky snake. He. Kobayashi Jiro stood up with difficulty, his bangs covered with sweat covered his eyes. You guessed right. I didn't expect you to know the secret of the Moon Ascension Altar. Chu Han. Chu Han. Very well, you are the most troublesome dragon country person to me so far. However, do you really think I can't wake up Yamada no Orochi? If you had a way, you would have woken it up a long time ago, and would it be barking here? Chu Han continued, expecting Kobayashi Jiro's next move. Kobayashi Jiro stopped talking. The side effects of the potion drained the strength in his body. He forced himself to slowly approach the sleeping giant snake. Shao Nai, I'm sorry. I originally wanted to resurrect you first, and then lift the seal of Yamada no Orochi. But now the Ascension Altar is destroyed, I can't make the elixir to revive you if I don't reach the 10th turn. Besides, I am also forced to a dead end now, there is no other way. After muttering, Kobayashi Jiro's hand lit up with a silver light spot, which reflected the starlight on the giant tree. In an instant, as if the giant tree had been disintegrated, it turned into countless light spots and drifted downwards, all of which gathered in Kobayashi Jiro's hands. In less than a few breaths, the giant tree disappeared completely, and Jiro Kobayashi had a silver lightsaber in his hand. Chu Han looked at this scene in astonishment, and couldn't help looking at the sword in Kobayashi Jiro's hand. Open black lens bracket Amazon Cloud Sword, Holy Artifact, close black lens bracket, Occupation Type, Swordsman, Knight. Durability. 160,000 thousandths. At the same time when his eyes became terrified, a majestic and terrifying coercion, like a sea tide, surged from all directions.
Agility plus 206600. Open black lens bracket Spirit plus 115,600 close black lens bracket. Equipment effect. Deal 7 times damage to the feared enemy. Chu Han was short of breath, and felt a slight tremor coming from the ground. Open black lens bracket Wisdom plus 155,400 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Power plus 210,000 close black lens bracket. He was used by someone to appear here just to seal Yamada no Orochi. The 1,000-year-old tree I saw at the beginning was actually the Tiankongan sword. And Kobayashi Jiro took back the sword at this time, then. Introduction. I have a sword, which symbolizes power, conquest and killing. Close black lens bracket. After reading the information and skills of the lightsaber, Chu Han seemed to understand everything. Equipment effect. Your attack will cause fear to enemies within 100 range. Physique plus 200000. Equipment skills. Active. Use the sword as a seal to suppress all enemies in the world. Close black lens bracket.
Open black lens bracket level. LV.560 close black lens bracket. Introduction. Also known as Kusanagi sword. It ranks 2nd on the Sakura National Equipment list, close black lens bracket. Chapter 180 I really want to be eaten by you. Seeing the awakened Yamada no Orochi began to squirm its mountain-like body, Chu Han went numb. Good news, I guessed it right, Kobayashi Jiro can really wake up Yamada no Orochi. Bad news, Yamada no Orochi is fully awake. At that moment, he looked at Yamada no Orochi again and again, but he still couldn't see the word, weakness, on the information interface. Chu Han also understood that Yamada no Orochi was suppressed by a Mankong Yunjian, and Kobayashi Jiro lifted the seal, which is a normal way of awakening and will not affect its strength. The old evil god with a combat power of 56 million cast a terrifying shadow over Chu Han's heart. Hey, hey hey. Kobayashi Jiro let out a crazily shrill laugh. With the side effects of the potion on his body, his limbs were weak, and he could only use a pair of long swords as crutches to barely stand there. Woo! As Yamada no Orochi squirmed, he suddenly shed tears again, the pain spread, and Jiro Kobayashi cried tremblingly.
Chu Han didn't have time to pay attention to the madman who was insane. He looked up and saw that Yamada no Orochi's body was too huge. Although he had already awakened, what Chu Han could see was the snake's body covered with scales, and he couldn't find where the snake's head was. The body piled up into a mountain of meat is constantly wriggling, it has already touched the dome, almost filling the entire space. It's like a huge pile of maggots crawling around in the stool. Chu Han couldn't help but have strange thoughts. At this time, a strong stench began to permeate, as if a corpse that had rotted for a long time suddenly exploded. Chu Han covered his mouth and nose and stepped back. His thoughts turned and he began to think about what to do next. Although he has been horrified by Yamada no Orochi's strength, Chu Han has no intention of escaping when he really matches up. At this time, there are many people outside who are on the way to support them, and they may have arrived in Weihai. The best way is of course to gather everyone's strength to kill Yamada no Orochi.
But in that case, the casualties will definitely be maximized. Among the supporters, many came here because they were worried about their own safety, and Chu Han did not want anyone to lose their lives because of him. Therefore, he decided to try heads up first, and if it didn't work, he would ask Luo Dang for help. After all, now that he has the Shira form, and has newly learned the BUG level shield skill, the Mirror of Beginning, even if he can't beat him, he won't die here. After making up his mind, Chu Han no longer retreated, but began to observe in the dark. Even Yamada no Orochi, even the old evil god of sequence 12, must have its weaknesses.
Oh Yamada no Orochi, a symbol of disaster. Suddenly, Kobayashi Jiro's voice sounded from a distance, and the Amazono cloud sword in his hand was shining with silver light, which was the only light source in this dark space. Chu Han could see that there were still tears on that crazy critic's face, as if there was something extremely sad about it. Hearing the call, Yamada no Orochi also responded, the body sped up and squirmed, and then from somewhere, a terrifying head stretched out. The snake head's eyes were as scarlet as blood, and the vertical pupils showed strange lines and luster. When it slowly approached Kobayashi Jiro and saw the Amazono cloud sword in his hand, it immediately opened its bloody mouth and let out a roar full of anger. When the foul wind hit, Chu Han could smell an unpleasant smell tens of meters away, and felt like vomiting. But Kobayashi Jiro looked calm and looked up at Yamada no Orochi. Yaki no Orochi, you are the guardian of the Sakura Kingdom and the destroyer of the Dragon Kingdom. Your awakening has only one mission, to destroy the Dragon Kingdom. A joke. A mere human being, driven by delusion. A harsh, piercing voice sounded like a death knell at the bottom of the deep sea, and two more snake heads appeared, circling behind Kobayashi Jiro. The three huge heads approached, and the eyes full of desire revealed their desire to swallow Kobayashi Jiro in one bite. However, the Tiankongan sword that once sealed itself was there, and they were also a little afraid. It's not a drive, it's a transaction. Kobayashi Jiro waved his hand, and the purple star hole appeared. The 100 Sakura country professionals he captured in Hesheng town were all trapped in here, and now they are dumped out like garbage. These people were originally sacrifices to help him ascend 10 ranks, but now that the altar was destroyed by Chu Han, it has no use, and now it can just become a bargaining chip in the deal with Yamada no Orochi. These 100 people are just a meeting ceremony. After the Dragon Kingdom is overthrown, I will continue to provide you with food. Kobayashi Jiro said with a smile, as if these 100 lives were just ants, and he could crush them to death at any time. Smelling the aroma of food, the 8 snakeheads couldn't help leaning over. Those 100 professionals were all from Hesheng town, a small peaceful place where they had never seen fighting and killing. At this time, when they saw the devil-like Yamada no Orochi from hell, they were so frightened that their bodies went limp and they couldn't help whining.
What is this? Where are we? Woo! It's terrible, I want to go home. There is a monster, ah. It's so noisy. Kobayashi Jiro yelled loudly, as a weak person, you should have the consciousness of being used as a bargaining chip. What's there to cry about? It's really embarrassing. After being yelled at by him, the crying stopped for a short while, but immediately became more violent. The 8 snake heads were condescending, and the saliva dripped on the people, which aroused bursts of mourning. They were not in a hurry to enjoy the food, but bumped into each other a few times, as if exchanging opinions. Please start. Kobayashi Jiro's tone softened again, as if he was inviting a friend he had just made to taste dessert. It's just that those desserts were all wailing, crying loudly. Although they are all professionals, after all, they have just changed jobs and have no combat experience. Coupled with the terrifying coercion of Yamada no Orochi, they have no idea of resistance at all, and can only be slaughtered. After the short meeting, the 8 snake heads couldn't restrain their appetite anymore, and rushed towards the professionals frantically, feasting on them. In the dark space, behind the festering and bleeding snake body, the 8 tails kept shaking. It's so delicious. After a while, everything returned to calm. The 8 heads raised up again, and from those greedy eyes, it could be seen that they were not full. A mere 100 professionals is really not enough to get between the teeth.
Moving forward, Yamada no Orochi surrounded Kobayashi Jiro. No matter how small a fly is, it is still meat. Although it makes no difference whether you eat it or not, Yamada no Orochi, who never likes to waste food, is still ready to move. It's just that Tiankongyan's sword made it hesitate.
To be honest, I really want to be eaten by you. After all, Shao Nai is still in your stomach. But it's not the time yet. Why don't you go and eat him first? After finishing speaking, Kobayashi Jiro waved the long sword in his hand and pointed it at Chu Han, who was hiding in the dark. Chapter 181. The country saves my dog's life. What AF * King Beast. After witnessing Jiro Kobayashi feeding his compatriots to Yamada no Orochi as food, Chu Han gave an appropriate evaluation. I had known that this guy was a crazy person who was inhumane, but I didn't expect that he was even more cruel than I imagined. At this time, there was a terrifying aura flowing in the darkness. Chu Han withdrew his gaze and looked up. In the pitch-black space, a huge black shadow as big as a mountain was slowly approaching him. The palpitating pressure made Chu Han's chest feel heavy and his breathing became rapid. Yamada no Orochi raised his head and slowly came to the front. As his eyes adapted to the darkness, Chu Han could probably clearly see the outline of this old evil god. 8 snake heads gathered on the body, and the back was divided into 8 snake tails. On its chest, it seemed to have been seriously injured, with pus and blood oozing out. This is where that disgusting smell comes from. Dangerous breath. After a moment of stalemate, one of the heads of Yamada no Orochi said this. Do it, Kobayashi Jiro urged, eat him, and I will find you more food. Perhaps because he was afraid of Tiankong, or perhaps he just wanted to eat, Yamada no Orochi briefly admired Chu Han's body, and then suddenly straightened his body. The 8 snake necks are mysterious and strict, and they are attacking, just like ancient demon gods. Originally, Chu Han planned to try a one-on-one battle first, and then went out to sea to ask for help if he couldn't. And at this moment, that absurd idea disappeared in an instant. Yamada no Orochi, the old evil god of Sequence 12, has already made him lose his will to fight just by relying on the energy he exudes. If he really fights, there will be no good results. The most important thing at the moment is to preserve strength, and then look for an opportunity to cut open the belly of Yamada no Orochi to see if there is the other side flower demon and sister inside. Yes, that's right, the thinking is very clear. After careful analysis, Chu Han decisively chose Kongshin this time. Anyway, the support on the sea is already in place, and the army of the Longwu department is there, so why do you want to be brave? The country saved my dog's life. With both legs kicking the ground, after images of the fleshy wings fanned out behind him, Chu Han rushed upwards frantically. This is the sleeping place of Yamada no Orochi, and it is also the bottom of the deep sea. If you want to leave, you have to run up. Boom. Dense cracks suddenly appeared in the air, as if an ancient power descended, tearing the space apart completely. Accompanied by the roar of Yamada no Orochi, the skill, Broken Power, is activated. Chu Han only felt that a heavy hammer was hitting him from all directions. Under the squeeze of force, his bones and muscles were almost crushed. But, no blood was lost. The skill lasted for a few seconds, and it hit the body firmly. The pain was very real, but the blood volume did not drop at all. Seeing the huge ball of light forming in his right hand, Chu Han bared his teeth and smiled. Even someone as strong as Yamada no Orochi can't break his own Wushi spiritual mirror. After transforming into Shira form, Chu Han was about 20 meters tall, and the diameter of the energy ball was nearly half of his own. It seems that the strength of the absorbed skills will also affect the power of the counterattack. Before Chu Han could make any move, Yamada no Orochi's roar shook the space again. The dome could not withstand the huge pressure and collapsed immediately, and the endless sea water swept in, turning into a violent current and rolling violently. Skill, Poseidon's Wrath. The surging sea water made Chu Han unable to move his body, and he could only silently endure the attack of the skills. Not far away, Kobayashi Jiro also inserted his swords upside down, holding on tightly to avoid being washed away. Although he was in a weak state, he took drugs to replenish his blood volume and would not be killed instantly. Boom. The billowing seawater seemed to be brewing a terrifying big explosion, and it actually made a thunderous sound. Water, relatively speaking, is softer after all, and the pain Chu Han endured is not as good as the breaking power just now. Seeing his unmoving HP bar and the expanding energy ball in his hand, Chu Han smiled even more. In the turbulent seawater, his eyes have locked on the figure of Kobayashi Jiro. Yamada no Orochi could not be easily killed by him, so Chu Han planned to reward Kobayashi Jiro with the energy ball. Boom. The sweeping seawater lasted for half a minute, and indeed a huge explosion occurred. Tons of seawater burst open at the bottom of the deep sea, no less powerful than a nuclear bomb. The last attack made the energy ball in Chu Han's hand accumulate to a diameter of nearly 40 meters. At this time, Yamada no Orochi noticed that the magic attack didn't seem to work on his snacks, so he suspended the attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chu Han raised the energy ball with one arm and smashed it in the direction of Kobayashi Jiro. At the same time, several violent lightning strikes followed. After throwing the skills, Chu Han didn't have time to check the results, turned around and continued to rush upwards, passing through the broken dome in a blink of an eye. The energy ball and thunder dragon exploded, illuminating Yamada no Orochi's huge body and the 16 shiny golden pupils.
Full of anger. It's fine if you don't allow small snacks, but you even paid yourself a long-term meal ticket. Unforgivable. The loneliness of being sealed at the bottom of the sea, and the slumber of unknown years, all turned into violent emotions at this moment. Yamada no Orochi set off angrily, chasing after Chu Han. Chu Han went all the way up, passing through an unknown amount of seafood that had been blown into pieces, and rushed towards the surface of the sea. Under him, a huge octopus is chasing after him. Chu Han almost used the potential of this body to the extreme. While going down, he still blocked it with his skills, while going upstream, keeping a safe distance from Yamada no Orochi.
In addition, back to the sea, various forces have also gathered. Leaders of various forces gathered on Luo Dang's warship to discuss countermeasures. All the active troops of the 39th Army of the Longwu Division under Luo Dang rushed over. With so many people fighting together, it is necessary to elect a leader character, otherwise chaos will definitely occur. As soon as these words came out, Shen Changming said in astonishment, "What, Elder Shen, you want to go into the sea?" Going back to the sea, today is destined not to be peaceful. At the same time, as friendly forces, the 17th Army and the 45th Army, which are the closest to here, also gave a lot of armed support. Elder Shen snorted. "Wait a minute, you know how to wait, why don't you ask that Yamada no Orochi will wait?" The Qingzhou City Defense Team led by Chen Changming. The members of the Spiritual Practice Church led by Shen Xingchen, as well as more than a dozen affiliated guilds.
On the deck, Shen Xingchen cupped his hands, and said politely, "General Luo, you are a senior officer of the Dragon Armed Forces Department. Naturally, you are better than the old man in commanding operations. You can see how to arrange it. Impossible, it's better to discuss it with everyone, and wait until a plan is made before acting." As for this person, only Shen Xingchen and Luo Dang could be present. A member of the 9th Squadron of the Royal Knights led by Zhang Yi. The sea was mighty and mighty, probably 10 or 20,000 people came. Chen Changming gasped, stopped talking, and turned his gaze to Luo Dang. "People from the Spiritual Cultivation Church, I will order them to obey your orders. I won't accompany you any longer. That kid Chu Han is now facing Yamada no Orochi and Kobayashi Jiro alone. I have to go into the sea to save him." The Zhongling City Defense Team led by Ma Bombing, Chapter 182. Hurry up and get the captain out. "Elder Shen, can you contact Chu Han? Luo Dang has always been vigorous and resolute, and hates to grind before taking action, but this time the combatants come from different forces, not all of them belong to him, so he still has to change his behavior style." Shen Xingchen was somewhat patient with the members of the Longwu department, and replied, "I can't get in touch, he should be in battle." "Well, it's the same as me." Luo Dang nodded. "What do you think? Let's go to the sea to support Chu Han first, and then lead our own teams to fight after leading the Yamada no Orochi out of the sea." Regarding Luo Dang's arrangement, everyone felt that it was more appropriate. It would be unrealistic to hand over all the commanding power to Luo Dang. After all, the people who came here followed their own leaders, and it would be easy to feel dissatisfied if the commander suddenly changed on the battlefield. Ma Bombing remained silent all the time. After all, he was only a leader of a small city. He had strayed into a high-end bureau, and he also knew that he was a soft-spoken person, so he simply stopped talking. He stood outside the crowd, looking at the sea from time to time, his eyes full of worry. Chen Changming clapped his hands and praised. "General Luo's arrangement is very reasonable, then we will discuss it carefully next time, as soon as possible." "You guys discuss it, I won't wait," Zhang Yi said impatiently, and withdrew from the crowd with the Crow 9 sword on his shoulder. "When you finish grinding, my future captain will be digested by Yamada no Orochi and pulled out. You guys discuss it, I'll go down first." As Zhang Yi jumped into the sea with a plop, everyone was astonished, while Luo Dang cast a slightly appreciative look. F***K. Young people are still refreshing. Shen Xingchen rolled up his sleeves and was about to jump down. At this moment, Zhang Yi's figure suddenly jumped up from under the sea again, stumbling and standing on the deck. "Damn it, there's a ghost." Zhang Yi wiped his face and pointed at the sea in shock. "What the hell?" Shen Xingchen frowned, and continued to walk towards the edge of the battleship. In broad daylight, can there still be dirty things? Boom. There was a bang, water splashed, and a demon-like monster rushed out of the sea. It was Chu Han in Shira form. He got out of the sea and suspended in midair. When he saw the crowd on the sea, he couldn't help being stunned. Knowing that there is support, I didn't expect so many people to come. Fortunately, the Shira form was not cancelled,
Otherwise I would be naked in front of tens of thousands of people. The Yamada no Orochi is coming. The situation was urgent, and Chu Han didn't have time to explain, so he yelled at Shen Xingchen in a simple and understandable way. Except for Shen Xingchen and Luo Dang, no one present knew that Shiro was Chu Han. Even if someone had seen the video of Chu Han naked in the ruins, they didn't make contact with Shiro. So when Chu Han appeared, many frightened people thought it was a monster attack, and threw out their skills without waiting for the order. Several glares hit Chu Han's body, and an energy ball more than 1 meter long lit up in his hand. At the same time, a huge vortex formed on the sea surface, sucking the nearby smaller ships toward the center.
With a wave of Chu Han's hand, he threw the energy ball into the vortex, but it didn't have any effect. The vortex continued to expand, and the force of attraction generated became more and more majestic. Naturally, the Longwubu warship that Luo Dang was on would not be affected, but some other small boats couldn't bear it. Beasts, don't be rampant. With a roar, Shen Xingchen jumped directly onto the side of the boat. Ice dancing storm. Ha! Click. A biting cold wind blew past, instantly freezing the sea surface into ice, and many seagoing ships were fixed in place. Shen Xingchen's face was solemn, and he could feel a terrifying force approaching rapidly.
Getting closer. Boom! The ice layer exploded, and a body like a hill rushed out. Yamada no Orochi stood with its head held high above the sea, and when it saw many professionals, its golden pupils shone with extremely greedy eyes. Ready to fight. Luo Dang made a decisive decision and shouted sharply, waking up everyone who was in shock. Ah, yes, fighting. Shen Changming's heart was beating violently. He quickly returned to his boat, and began to direct his men to prepare for the attack. The others also returned to the ship one after another, ordering their subordinates to follow in the footsteps of the Longwu army and kill monsters together. The old evil god of Sequence 12 is by no means unusual. It stands proudly, let out a majestic and low-pitched roar, and its terrifying aura floats above the sea, making it daunting. It was only at this time that Chu Han really saw the face of Yamada no Orochi. It's horrible. The half-body exposed above the sea is like an isolated island covered with unknown green plants. Where there is no plant cover, there are layers of green and black scales, shining with a cold light. And the 8 heads on its neck are like ancient demon gods looking down on all living beings, and their golden pupils are full of contempt. It looked around at the professionals around it, like a beast watching ants. The 39th Army of the Longwu Department approached first, and under Luo Dang's command, they were ready for battle. At this moment, a figure rushed past them. Zhang Yi held the Crow 9 sword in his hand. As he leapt from the bow, his size grew, and the Crow 9 also turned into a black giant sword more than 20 meters long. Bastard, where is my future captain? Did you eat him? Quickly pull me out. Boom. Zhang Yi, in the form of a judge, held the sword in both hands, and slashed at the top of Yamada no Orochi's head in the air. Chu Han looked at him with bright eyes. Yes, this is it. Why didn't his clothes rot?
I saw that after Zhang Yi became bigger, the clothes on his body also changed according to his body shape, completely avoiding the embarrassing situation of seeing people with his bare butt after regaining his body shape. When Luo Dang saw someone making a move, he immediately ordered his sergeant to stop and stand by. Everyone does not belong to the same camp, and there is no team formation, so it is easy to cause accidental injury. This mixed operation came too hastily. Without advanced strategic planning, it is difficult to cooperate. Zhang Yi was full of anger. Chu Shi was probably killed by Yamada no Orochi at the beginning, and now he has eaten his new captain. With this sword, he just wanted to split Yamada no Orochi in half. Ding! The long sword was slashed above the head, and the sound of metal and stone clashing spread to the surroundings, even causing ripples on the sea surface. But the Crow's 9 swords didn't cut in a single bit, and the head of Yamada no Orochi was as hard as fine steel.
It's the skill, magic bestowed armor. Zhang Yi can't break through the defense. Chu Han watched from the side and murmured. A sly taunt flashed in Yamada no Orochi's pupils. It shook its head, swung its long sword, and the 8 snakeheads opened their mouths wide at the same time. Roar! These people originally belonged to different camps, and it was not so easy for them to have a tacit understanding and work together.
The roar of Yamada no Orochi continued. A few ships had no time to avoid it, and fell into it from the cut side while shaking, and the people on board also fell into the abyss. But looking at it now, it is obviously unlikely. In an instant, the sea surface frozen by Shen Xingchen split open, and the boat floated on the water again. Unless, they can concentrate their strength in one place. There were no casualties, and it was even happier than the professionals. After all, wherever it looked, it was its own food, and if it died, it would eat less. With sharp eyes and quick hands, Chu Han rushed over to pick up one and put it in a safe place. Chu Han frowned and thought. Facing a boss of this level requires the most concerted efforts and perfect cooperation. Under its control, the sea water began to shake violently like an earthquake, and then amidst the screams of the crowd, a very neat section appeared. At this time, Chu Han probably saw the situation clearly. Although there were quite a lot of people who came, they were almost all trash fish, and there were too few capable ones. The broken power was activated again, Cracks were shaken out of the air, and then spread to the ice surface.
The surface of the sea, like a piece of cake, was cut into more than a dozen pieces. The other boats were not so lucky, and fell directly to the bottom of the deep sea. Fortunately, most of the professionals had flying skills, so they could abandon the boat and escape, and they could replace 1 or 2 people when they flew away. With one blow to deter everyone, Yamada no Orochi looked at the result he had caused with satisfaction. This is not a battle that I am qualified to participate in at all. Although there were not many casualties, the destructive power of Yamada no Orochi's casual strikes caused many people to retreat. Chapter 183 We must avenge Chu Han, bringing the power together. Chu Han turned around and fixed his gaze on Yamada no Orochi. Zhang Yi, who was in the form of a judge, fought nimbly with him, but he was obviously not his opponent, and soon fell into a disadvantage. At the same time, under the command of Luo Dang, the sergeants of the Longwu department launched an attack, but the effect was still minimal. Most of the old evil gods were said to be enemies of human beings, and Yamada no Orochi had been sleeping for a long time, and was already full of resentment. At this time, he went crazy, causing a lot of casualties to human beings in an instant. Yamada no Orochi set off violent waves and formed a huge water wall on the sea surface. The professionals squeezed by the water wall seemed to be under some kind of control effect and fell into the sea one after another. Even Zhang Yi was drained of strength, his body glowed white, and he turned into a pocket shape and fell onto the deck of the battleship. Yamada no Orochi screamed wildly, and a huge vortex rolled up all over its body, like a sea god descending into the world. I can't go on like this. Chu Han saw the battle in his eyes, and he really felt the horror of Yamada no Orochi. With a combat power of 56 million and a serial number of 12, the old evil god's real power may be more than that. The land closest to here is within the territory of the Dragon Kingdom. If this guy is allowed to break through the siege, the Dragon Kingdom will suffer even more terrifying disasters. In addition, there is also Kobayashi Jiro whose life and death are unknown. If he is still alive, he will definitely use Yamada no Orochi to do more insane things. It is too late to ask the country for support now, and delaying it will cause more casualties. It must be resolved as soon as possible. Chu Han made up his mind and immediately flew over the head of Yamada no Orochi. On the battleship, Shen Xingchen was observing the battle situation anxiously, looking for an opportunity to make a move at any time. The strength of this Yamada no Orochi is more perverted than the 3 old evil gods I faced alone back then. It is several times more difficult to kill it. While thinking about how to defeat the enemy, he suddenly saw a figure enter the battlefield. At the same time, his system prompt sounded. Chu Han. Master, tell everyone, whoever has long-range skills, throw them all at me. I have a way to kill Yamada no Orochi. Close black lens bracket. Shen Xingchen looked up and found that the figure that suddenly appeared was Chu Han in Shira form.
What do you want to do, kid? At this time, Luo Dang suddenly ran over. Elder Shen, I just received a message from Chu Han. Shen Xingchen glanced at the frontal battlefield. Chu Han was teasing Yamada no Orochi, as if he wanted to lure him far away. What did he say? Luo Dang said quickly. Chu Han said that he asked me to withdraw the people. He had a way to kill Yamada no Orochi, and said that our people should try to use control skills to hold the Orochi back and buy him time. Elder Shen, you are his master, and you must have a better understanding of Chu Han's abilities. Please come up with an idea. What should I do?
I know it, der. Shen Xingchen stroked his beard and said in a deep voice, do it, trust that kid. As the protector of the country, all the officers and soldiers of the Longwu department have absolute respect for Shen Xingchen. At this time, Luo Dang gave him the decision-making power because he admired the old man from the bottom of his heart.
After receiving Shen Xingchen's answer, Luo Dang didn't hesitate at all, and directly issued an order to withdraw all the soldiers still fighting, and assign some of them to rescue the companions who were knocked into the sea. On the other side, Chu Han realized that the sergeants of the Longwu department had withdrawn in a disciplined manner, and he was the only one left to confront the Yamada no Orochi, so he continued to try to lead it to a wider sea area. Shen Xingchen returned to the cruise ship belonging to the spiritualist church. Elder Shen, you are finally back. What should you do next? That's right. Let's take part in the battle too. We can't let the members of the Longwu department carry it on their own. That's right. I'm dying of anxiety. A group of people surrounded Shen Xingchen and said impatiently. Shen Xingchen waved his hand, and first called all the leaders of the affiliated guilds to his boat, and of course he didn't forget Ma Bombing, the governor of Zhongling City. In a critical moment, everyone's execution ability is very high, and everyone is here in a short while. Listen to me, everyone, there are only 2 combat missions for you next. First, whoever has control skills will throw them all on Yamada no Orochi, regardless of whether it is useful or not. 1 second of control is 1 second. Second, the remaining people, under the premise of ensuring a safe distance, throw all their skills on that Shira, don't keep them, and use them when the CD is turned. After finishing speaking, the people below all made puzzled and doubtful voices. Elder Shen, the most important enemy right now is Yamada no Orochi. That Asura doesn't seem to be a threat. That's right, he saved our ship just now. Shira is a friendly army, so we can't hit him. Since the control skills are given to Yamada no Orochi, why not attack it directly? Hearing what everyone said, Shen Xingqian's head grew dizzy. After all, these people are only members of the guild, not soldiers of the Longwu department, and the words, execute orders, are not engraved in their bones. Luo Dang probably has already arranged all the tasks, and I have to explain why to this group of people. Shen Xingqian sighed secretly, and could only try his best to speak concisely. That Asura is Chu Han, you throw your skills at him, he has a way to kill Yamada no Orochi. As soon as the words came out, the crowd didn't believe it. Then Shira is Chu Han. It doesn't feel like, yeah, Chu Han is not a mage, I haven't heard of any mage who can transform. Elder Shen, is the news wrong? Shen Xingqian clenched his fists behind his back, and his eyebrows were twisted into twists. In an instant, countless eyes full of hatred shot towards Shira in midair like blades. But now, Chu Han is dead. As the saying goes, all are prosperous. Chu Han's astonishing performance in Guling Mountain has added brilliance to the faces of those who stayed in the church, and it will be more face-saving to go out and brag with friends in other guilds. According to his violent temper, he would have punched him one by one in normal times. Not long ago, Chu Han was brutally killed by that Shira in order to defend the Dragon Kingdom against the evil gods of the past. A high-spirited young hero who defends the territory with his own strength and resists demons until he dies in battle. Shen Xingqian had an idea, and shouted loudly, Chu Han was killed by that Shira. Those affiliated guilds are still calm, but the members of Shuling Church are all shocked and angry. Endless anger rose from the bottom of people's hearts, and some young and inexperienced professionals even had red eyes. What an exciting legendary story. If you still have conscience, go kill that Shira and avenge Chu Han. Those words immediately caused the crowd to explode. But now the situation is special, and there is no time to explain it to him in detail. Boom. That genius boy who brought supreme glory to the guild died in order to defend the country from being invaded by Yamada no Orochi. Revenge. Must avenge Chu Han. Although Chu Han has only joined the club for a short time and has no friendship with them, but Chu Han is the #1 seed of the spiritual cultivation church to participate in the Zhengwu Grand ceremony.
Do not believe? Then hit your letter. Chapter 184 Donate your skills? For Chu Han? Zhongling City did not have its own warships, so the city defense team led by Ma Bombing took a requisitioned merchant ship.
On the rusty deck, Ma Bombing expressed grief, and conveyed what Shen Xingqian just said to his subordinates. City government, what are you talking about? Chu Han is dead. In the crowd, a slender and fit figure trembled slightly. Tears welled up in Shen Xinling's eyes, her beautiful eyes were full of despair. This is fake, right? Chu Han won't die.
Ma Bombing knew that this female teacher took good care of Chu Shi and Chu Han. Now that her sister was missing and her brother was killed in battle, Ma Bombing could empathize with her. Unfortunately, this news came from Elder Shen of the Spiritual Cultivation Church himself. It is true. Shen Xinling closed her eyes in despair, tears streaming down like broken pearls. The two siblings already had miserable fates. They finally saw the light of day on the road of professionals, but they ended up like this. The world is truly inhumane. Shen Xinling opened her eyes again, her grief turned into hatred. She drew up the azure blue longbow, and the dazzling golden light condensed into arrows. This was the skill that Chu Han gave her before leaving Zhongling, Long River Sunset. Whoosh! The golden arrow left the string and shot straight at that hateful Shira. She wants to avenge Chu Han. A golden arrow of light rose into the sky, as if it had sounded some kind of signal. Skills one after another exuded all kinds of glare, coming overwhelmingly from the boats of many supporters. On the other side, Chu Han was still attracting Yamada no Orochi's attention. He just used Reincarnation Whisper to try to kill Yamada Orochi in seconds, but he couldn't. In terms of skill effects, there are actually still some, but he can only kill one of the heads, and then Yamada no Orochi will trigger the passive skill, Immortal Soul, and this head will be resurrected immediately. Simply shameless. After repeated attempts, Chu Han also understood that the 8 snake heads must be killed at the same time in order to completely eliminate this old evil god. And my own level is too different from Yamada no Orochi. If I want to kill at the same time, I can only rely on the Mirror of No Beginning. It was Chu Han's only way to let everyone concentrate on him, absorb their skills, and create a huge energy ball. After deciding on this strategy, Chu Han led Yamada no Orochi some distance away and then stopped. After all, he couldn't leave too far away, otherwise he would be blind if his skills couldn't be thrown off him.
Duo. The golden sharp arrow hit the buttocks, and there was a muffled sound on the stone-like skin. Hiss. It really hurts. Chu Han touched his butt, then looked at the small energy ball that appeared on his right hand.
He looked back, and countless skills had already struck. Ghost Dao Bookmaking Array. A huge array of Sanskrit characters formed on the sea surface, covering the Yamada no Orochi in the center. At the same time, some of those flying skills also hit Yamada no Orochi. Countless control skills made Yamada no Orochi's figure suddenly slow down, and it actually caused a good immobilization effect for a while. And more skills were all blasted on Chu Han's body, and the energy ball in his hand suddenly became bigger. On the sea a little further away, Shen Xingchen commanded excitedly. Go on, don't stop, go on. After finishing speaking, he fired a 9th level fire-type skill and blasted at Chu Han firmly. I don't know why, but when he violently beat up his little apprentice, he felt an inexplicable sense of refreshment. Therefore, under Shen Xingchen's incitement, everyone's emotions continued to be ignited, and their determination to avenge Chu Han became more and more determined. The dense long-range skills bombarded indiscriminately, throwing money at Shira like he didn't want money. Boom. Boom. Chu Han bared his teeth, and in a blink of an eye, he felt that he had endured thousands of skills. And looking at the appearance of the group of people below, it seems that they don't have the slightest pity for themselves. Why do I feel that they are not helping me accumulate energy, but really want to kill me? Chu Han felt helpless, so he could only keep taking drugs. Fortunately, there is the magical medicine Yushuya from Luo Dang's pit. This medicine specially provided by the Longwu department can replenish his physical strength and relieve pain. Otherwise, with so many skills hitting him, even if he didn't lose blood, he would pass out from the pain. Boom. Boom. The intensive skill bombing was still going on. Chu Han glanced at his right hand. It's getting bigger. The energy ball glowing with silvery white light had absorbed many skills, and its diameter expanded to nearly 100 meters. One hand was already out of control. Chu Han let out a roar, raised the energy ball above his head, and supported it with both hands. Not enough. Come again. Yamada no Orochi is not that easy to kill. You must maximize the power of the energy ball before he breaks free of control. Hearing the shout, Shen Xingchen became even more excited. Go on, use your anger to devour the hateful Shira. Dedicate your skills, for Chu Han. Boom. Boom. Encouraged by Shen Xingchen, everyone worked harder. As soon as the skill CD was good, they would immediately hit the target. Although the place where Shira is located has been surrounded by all kinds of glare and even thick smoke, it is almost impossible to see his figure. But no one stopped. They want Shira to turn into powder. Damn it, you guys are so capable. You would have just F***ed Yamada no Orochi just now, saving me the trouble. Chu Han complained in his heart and looked up. The energy balls had accumulated to an extremely terrifying level. He was under it, so it was difficult to visually measure the diameter, but at a rough glance, it was at least 100 meters. Compared with the energy ball above its head, the Yamada no Orochi looks much smaller.
Is this the legendary cannon that blasts mosquitoes? Chu Han thought to himself and looked down. Yamada no Orochi is still harassed by the control skills and will not make any movements for the time being. Then save some more. Chu Han silently used up a few more bottles of Yushu liquid, his almost numb body continuing to withstand the bombardment of skills. Boom. Boom. After several more rounds of attacks, Shen Xingchen suddenly felt guilty and began to worry about whether his apprentice could hold on.
Looking over, he could no longer be seen there, only the glare caused by various skills. Okay, stop. Shen Xingchen waved his hand to stop everyone. Seeing this, Luo Dang also ordered to stop the attack. People looked over breathlessly, their attention was all on Shira, and few people even cared about Yamada no Orochi. The glare and thick smoke dissipated, and a huge silver ball of light gradually appeared. It was suspended above the sea, like a small planet, containing majestic and terrifying power. What is this? Where is Shira? Did Shira get blown up by us? Is this the explosion effect produced by his body? No, look, there is someone holding the ball of light underneath, it seems. It's that Shira. Everyone was shocked, while Shen Xingchen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Chu Han held up the energy ball with both hands, his expression distorted to the extreme. Even with Yushu liquid carrying him, tens of thousands of skills hitting his body still caused him to taste all the pain. Stop, do you finally realize that you feel sorry for me? Chu Han teased silently and looked down. The Yamada no Orochi has lost control. It raised its head and looked at Chu Han, its scarlet pupils reflected a silvery white color and trembled slightly. It's in fear. Afraid? Chu Han looked at the huge energy ball with a diameter of nearly 200 meters, twitched the corners of his mouth, and smiled evilly. Mine is big, please bear with me. Chapter 185 The Ultimate Potion. Resurrect, my love. The huge energy ball has a faint thunder pattern flowing on the surface. Its color is pure, as if it is made of the essence of heaven and earth. The violent energy fluctuations formed circle after circle of ripples on the sea surface, and the nearby sea beasts were startled and fled in all directions. Tens of thousands of supporters, headed by Shen Xingchen, all looked at the energy ball that eclipsed the sun with disbelief on their faces, and the thing had exceeded their cognitive range. Accompanied by roars, Chu Han's arms sank, and the energy ball crashed down like an asteroid. He looked down at the sea, feeling the strong elemental power pouring into his body from the air, and then pouring out with that energy ball. The tide is rolling. Under the roar of Yamada no Orochi, the huge Sanskrit word circle collapsed and was immediately submerged in the endless waves. The bookmaking array was cracked, and Yamada no Orochi seemed to feel the threat of death. The 8 terrifying heads seemed to explode, and the scales were all lifted, and then black bone spurs protruded from the gaps. At the same time, the body began to swell, becoming more ferocious and terrifying. It activated its skill. The sacrifice of the fallen god. Gain the power of the god of darkness and fallen, at the cost of consuming life.
The energy ball came crashing down like Mount High. Yamada no Orochi opened its bloody mouth wide, stepped forward, and forcibly blocked the silver light ball that was more than 100 times its size. Beep. In the black fangs, the turbulent flow of elemental power shuttles quickly. Yaki no Orochi weakly contends with it, but the surrounding seawater can't bear it, forming a monstrous distance of tens of meters high. Seeing that the ships around were about to suffer disaster, Shen Xingqian's eyes flashed brightly, and he stepped forward against the waves.
Ice dancing storm. In an instant, the monstrous waves turned into ice crystals, and the penetrating power of the 9th level ice-type skills even froze the depth of 100 meters below the sea surface.
It's just that after the water turned into ice, Yamada no Orochi also had a point of strength under his body, and his body covered with black bone spurs revealed a steady stream of strength, and there was a hint of pushing the energy ball back. Ghost Way Asura King. Seeing that the situation was not good, Chu Han turned himself into a three-headed and six-armed body, and then his body volleyed down like a falcon. The six palms exerted force at the same time, and slammed on the energy ball. Boom. With Chu Han's help, the energy ball was filled with majestic power again. Without any hindrance, the turbulent flow of elements crushed all 8 heads of the big snake, and a series of blood-red damage values floated up. You killed Yamada no Orochi and gained 32 million experience points. Before he had time to take a closer look, Chu Han received a system prompt to kill Yamada no Orochi. But the energy ball didn't stop. It smashed deeply into the ice surface, opening up an ice cave leading to the bottom of the sea, and the remaining body of Yamada no Orochi also fell down. Chu Han was startled, and hurriedly chased after him. The loot is secondary, the key is that the sister is still in the snake's stomach. If she disappears with the boss's body, she will be finished. A ball, a snake, and a Shira disappeared into the dark ice cave, leaving only the supporters with dazed and shocked expressions, looking at each other on the bitingly cold ice.
In the ice passage, the energy ball opened the way ahead, and quickly penetrated the ice layer. After entering the seawater, it stimulated the seabed vortex, and then exhausted its potential energy and completely dissipated. And after the half Yamada no Orochi fell into the sea, it disappeared very quickly. A variety of trophies were scattered in the seawater, and 2 figures appeared with them. One of them was covered by green vines, and his face could not be seen clearly. The other is a girl, her face is pale and bloodless, like a corpse that has not yet decomposed. Later, Chu Han entered the seawater, checked the direction and continued to dive. He has already cancelled his Shira form, and put on the dragon soul cloth, barely covering his sinister delicate body. At the same time, Xiao He was also summoned by him. I'll go find my sister, you go pick up the loot, and if you pick up one less leg, I'll break it for you. The pet beast can pick up the loot and put it directly into the owner's backpack. Assign tasks well, and act separately with 1 person and 1 horse. After going back and forth to the bottom of the sea several times, Chu Han's underwater kung fu was obviously good. He dived faster and faster, and soon caught up with the green mass. Although he didn't know what was wrapped inside, Chu Han knew these vines, the worry-relieving vines that belonged to the flower demon on the other side. Grabbing along the vine, Chu Han hugged the humanoid object. I saw that the man was tightly entwined by vines, not a single bit of skin was exposed. Is that you? Chu Han's breathing was rapid, his eyes were red, and he reached out to push the vines away from her face. But he stopped again. He was suddenly afraid. After such a long search, I finally got the result, but what if this person is not my sister? All the clues are lost. Where to start in the vast sea of people? Call. After gathering his courage, Chu Han turned his attention to the vine man again and checked the information. Open black lens bracket Chu Shi close black lens bracket open black lens bracket occupation, silver winged dragon knight, turn 8 knight, close black lens bracket. Level. LV.540. Open black lens bracket physique. 921,314 close black lens bracket open black lens bracket power. 908,481 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket wisdom. 891,473 close black lens bracket. Agility. 912,354. Open black lens bracket spirit. 888,348 close black lens bracket. Combat power value. 4,201,594. The target is affected by the flower demon's skill. Reincarnation, and is in a state of suspended animation. The flower demon will be resurrected in the target's body. Close black lens bracket. Resurrected in the target's body. Chu Han suddenly opened his eyes wide. What does this mean? The flower demon from the other side will be resurrected in his sister's body. Seize the body, or resurrecting a dead body. Don't panic, don't panic. When his sister's life was involved, Chu Han was inevitably panicked, so he could only suppress his emotions. I just checked the information, and the feedback is still Chu Shi, which means that this body still belongs to my sister, and the flower demon on the other side has not succeeded. That being the case, everything can be saved. After calming down, Chu Han swam to the top of the sea with Xiao He, who had returned from picking up the treasure. Return to the depths of the sea. Kobayashi Jiro hugged her gently, like an affectionate prince meeting the princess he had been waiting for a long time. This seemed to be the sweetest kiss in the world, and Jiro Kobayashi enjoyed it immensely. It must be very lonely, don't be afraid, my love, we will always be together in the future. And even so, in the eyes of Kobayashi Jiro, she is still the most beautiful Minamoto Kona, and she is still the cold and aloof beauty. After coming out of Yamada no Orochi's body, she kept falling, until she fell into a person's arms. She fell top-heavy to the bottom of the sea, her body without any vital signs also entangled with 3 or 2 vines. Xiao Nai, you are finally back. There was no response. Yuan Xiao Nai's head drooped, her hair had fallen out, and her bare scalp gradually cracked in the water and then fell off. She placed Yuan Xiao Nai's body on it, and then took out a bottle of pure black liquid. Immediately afterwards, cracks began to appear at the corners of her mouth, and gradually spread to the base of her ears. There was tenderness in his eyes. After doing all this, he didn't dislike the other person's mouth full of rotten teeth at all, so he kissed her passionately. The ultimate magic potion that can resurrect the dead and gain supreme dark power. Kobayashi Jiro smiled gently, pried open Xiao Nai's mouth, and poured the potion in little by little. After a while, Yuan Xiao Nai, who was lying on the metal plate, suddenly moved his fingers. My plan to ascend to the 10th rank failed, so I can only force you to use such a defective product. Then, he opened a pair of broken and cloudy eyes. Holding the body in his arms, Kobayashi Jiro fell onto the metal plate under the Great Rift Valley on the seabed. Chapter 186 Radiant, Hero Chu Han. Kobayashi Jiro noticed the movement of the person in his arms, and slowly let her go. Yuan Xiaonai seemed to be resurrected, but her body changed a lot. There seemed to be black blood vessels beating under her pale skin. She and Kobayashi Jiro looked at each other for a moment, then opened their huge mouth that was split to the earlobe, with a face like a ghost, and let out a miserable scream.
That cry echoed at the bottom of the deep sea, like a death knell at midnight, terrifying. But Kobayashi Jiro listened to it, but it was like a wonderful music, tears filled his eyes, and his eyes flashed with crazy love. This moment is extremely enjoyable. Yuan Xiaonai, who has turned into a demon, is like a work of art he has carefully completed.
It's so perfect, this is the power of the god of darkness and fall. Xiaonai, this is your sword, hold it, it's time for us to perform on stage.
Kobayashi Jiro held the demon sword Muramasa with his left hand, and slowly passed the Amazono unsword in his right hand. Yuan Xiaonai caught the sword stiffly, her gray eyeballs rolled, and she couldn't see any human emotion. Kobayashi Jiro smiled triumphantly, the time for hunting finally came. Xiaonai, keep up. Together, let the world marvel at your resurrection and welcome your new life. Gaka. Yuan Xiaonai opened her terrifying mouth slightly, and a muffled sound came out of her throat. From the beginning to the end, she floated in place without moving.
When Kobayashi Jiro turned around and went upstream, it seemed that some kind of hunting instinct was triggered. Yuan Xiaonai's body swooped up like a shark, her mouth opened, and the upper half of her head was lifted. Click. Extremely fast, ruthless and accurate, Yuan Xiaonai directly bit Kobayashi Jiro's waist. The inestimable bite force directly broke Kobayashi Jiro's body in two. Before he even had time to make a sound, the seawater was immediately stained red with blood. Stimulated by the smell of blood, Yuan Xiaonai became even more frantic, and Kobayashi Jiro was eaten up after a few bites. Yuan Xiaonai, who doesn't like wasting food, even drank the surrounding blood. After a full meal, Yuan Xiaonai regained her composure, curled up there like a good baby, waiting for her next prey. At this time, she was attracted by another thing. It was a green vine. After approaching, Yuan Xiaonai grabbed the vine in her hand, her gray eyeballs shaking rapidly. This is the worry-relieving vine from the flower demon on the other side, and it seems to have activated some of her memories. After a long time, she raised her head and looked up from the deep seabed. The next moment, the ghostly body chased after the worry-releasing vine in the direction it fell. Chu Han and Xiao He swam desperately to the surface of the sea with their exhausted bodies. After fighting for a long time, Chu Han couldn't stand it anymore, so he quickly drank 2 bottles of Yushu liquid. After his physical fitness recovered, Chu Han suddenly felt a strange feeling and couldn't help but look down. With the passive effect of Bai Zi's heart, he can easily perceive danger signals in a wide range. Looking down, the deep and dark sea water blocked the line of sight, as if there was a crisis buried everywhere. Xiao He, you take her up first. Putting his sister on the horse, Chu Han stopped. Xiao He looked at the vine mummy on his body, and obviously had no intention of leaving alone. No matter how unreliable the master is, he is also his own master, how could he run away and survive alone?
Chu Han understood its intention, stroked the horse's head and smiled. The next enemy will be very strong, you may not be able to help, and this person is my sister, whose life is more important than mine, you protect her and leave, not a deserter. Gee. With such a legitimate reason, Xiao He let out a long cry of happiness, and rushed to the surface of the sea without looking back. I still need a beating. Chu Han saw the way it used all 4 hooves, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. At this moment, the dangerous aura was getting closer and closer. Chu Han withdrew his gaze and continued to look down, but after looking for a long time, there was nothing under him. A huge terror suddenly exploded. Chu Han's heart skipped a beat, and then he turned around quickly. Looking at the monster that appeared behind him at some point, Chu Han's hair stood up all over his body. What the hell is this? Open black lens bracket. One mouthful of women. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Introduction. Ancient monster. Close black lens bracket. Where did this valuable thing come from? After reading the introduction, Chu Han almost didn't dare to look at the other person.
That lifeless, devil-like appearance will make anyone go crazy if they look at it. Ouch. Yuan Xiaonai, who transformed into a woman, didn't think much. After seeing Chu Han, she only regarded him as delicious food and opened her mouth to enjoy it. Seeing the mouth open 180 degrees and half of the monster's head tilted back, Chu Han regretted letting Xiao He leave. Judging by their looks, these two guys definitely have something in common, and maybe they can even become good friends. The speed of the blow was so fast that Chu Han's scalp was numb, and he directly threw out a blast of light from the Temple of Light. When the majestic Buddha's voice swayed into seawater, the golden temple was splendid, and the holy power came like a raging fire. A woman was illuminated by golden light, and her pale skin seemed to be burned, making a sizzling sound and white smoke coming out. She seemed to be in great pain, and amidst bursts of shrill screams, she was completely turned into smoke, and then disappeared into the sea. Sure enough, it's from the dark department. Chu Han let out a sigh of relief. Not only was this monster ugly, but it should also be strong. Fortunately, she was of the dark type and could be defeated by him. Otherwise, it would have been another fierce battle. Just when he was rejoicing, a silver light suddenly broke into his sight and slowly fell in the seawater. With a thought in his heart, he swam towards the stream of light and soon held it in his hand. Acquire equipment. Sacred weapon, Tiankong Yun sword, close black lens bracket. Chu Han had some doubts in his heart. After careful inspection, he found that this was indeed the Tiankong Yun sword he had seen before. However, shouldn't this equipment be in the hands of Jiro Kobayashi? Why did it explode on this monster? After pondering for a moment, Chu Han had no clue, and Chu Han didn't think much about it. Anyway, I have already obtained the items. What if the professionals from Sakura country, who were living a good life in their childhood, knew that their second largest equipment in the national equipment list was taken away by them, and they died on the spot in anger? Chu Han imagined that wonderful scene, and hurried upstream without staying in the water for too long.
The long battle made him exhausted. Although he had recovered his physical strength with Yushu liquid, his stomach began to growl unsatisfactorily and he was a little hungry. Shen Xingchen watched his little apprentice stealing the limelight, his eyes filled with relief. More than 10 minutes later, Chu Han rushed out of the water, and the first thing he saw was the huge ice sculpture. Chu Han stood on top of the ice, the glare from the reflected sunlight enveloped him. He stood on the ice, trying to find Xiao He first. Before he could see what was going on around him, a burst of cheers suddenly came from all around. Supporters gathered from all directions on their own boats. The ice sculpture is in the shape of an explosion, like a blooming ice flower.
He couldn't wait to open the panel and send a message to Yao Shengyu. Teacher, the matter is over. You can soon announce that Chu Han will take my place. No one will have any objections. After receiving the answer, Luo Dang smiled. Shen Xingchen's control over magical elements is enough to accurately melt the ice on the sea, forming a channel for ships to move. After a long time, he said loudly to his companions, "Everyone, Team 9 will be reorganized soon. Get ready to welcome our old captain and new captain." Pocket Zhang Yi sat on top of Su Ying's head, looking at the radiant Chu Han. His mood was also agitated. At this moment, with the admiration of thousands of people like the stars holding the moon, Chu Han felt unprecedented enthusiasm amidst the heroes, one after another. Hero. 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 On the battleship of the Longwu department, Luo Dang stood with his hands behind his back, with no expression on his blade-like face. "Xiao Lu, have you handed in the letter recommending Chu Han to the Longwu department?" The guard Xiao Lu nodded behind him. "It has been handed over to the headquarters." Chapter 187 Inventory of Property, Pet Beast Eggs That Cannot Be Hatched? Yesterday, Yamada no Orochi woke up in the sea area of Weihai and almost invaded the border of Dragon Kingdom. Nearly 10,000 professionals led by General Luo Dang, a senior officer of the Dragon Military Department, killed it, resolving a huge crisis. There are still many unsolved mysteries about the awakening of Yamada no Orochi. Prior to this, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Sakura Kingdom has formally apologized to the Dragon Kingdom, and explained that this matter was done by Kobayashi Jiro alone, and it was definitely not an official order, and Kobayashi Jiro has feared crime absconded, missing.
In addition, the Tiankong Yunjian, which ranks second in the Cherry Blossom National Weapons List, has not yet been found. The official reward has been increased to 800 billion gold coins. We will continue to pay attention to the follow-up development of the incident. Our reporter Yu Wubo is reporting for you. In the empty corridor, the sound of news broadcasts came from the wall-mounted TV. The light blue light reveals mystery and tranquility. At the end of the deep corridor, there is a small room with a small area. This place was originally a small warehouse for storing sundries, but it was temporarily cleaned up and piled up by the wall. Chu Han sat cross-legged on the ground, holding a bottle of Fat House Happy Water in his hand. In front of him stood a slender girl.
The young girl had fair skin and a clear face, a rare beauty. It's just that on her delicate skin, there are countless green vines, which are fused with the flesh like external blood vessels. She looks like a plant that has cultivated into a human form. Chu Han couldn't tell, he really couldn't tell, whether it was Chu Shi or the flower demon from the other side that was in front of him now. Looking at that familiar face, Chu Han's eyes flickered, and his eyes were full of distress. At this time, Chu Shi was trapped in a magic circle. Although her eyes were dull, the vines on her body were vigilantly patrolling around like a frightened poisonous snake. When they accidentally crossed the border and touched the edge of the magic circle, they would curl up back as if struck by lightning, and at the same time, there would be a flash of pain on Chu's eyes' pretty face. Chu Han saw it and clenched his fists. Finally rescued her sister, but her situation did not improve and she was still trapped in the cage. At that moment, he even wanted to smash the magic circle desperately. But Chu Han understood that he couldn't do this. He wanted his sister to come out of the cage openly, and let those people remove the magic circle without complaint. Ever since Chu Shi was rescued, Chu Han took her back to Guling Mountain temporarily. That night, Chu Shi became violent and injured several people. Fortunately, no one was killed. Chu Shi was subdued by a group of big bosses, locked in this hut and suppressed with magic circles. After a series of observations and analysis, everyone concluded that Chu Shi was already in a state of death, and that she was just a shell, which was parasitized in her body by the flower demon of the other side with special means. With the ironclad facts in front of them, even Shen Xingchen and Luo Dang, who wanted to help Chu Han, had nothing to say. After all, the Battle of Yamata no Orochi has attracted the attention of all parties, and there are some things that they cannot decide without authorization in their identities. If it wasn't for Chu Han's great achievements just now, and it was the dazzling moment when he was wearing a dazzling light, Chu Shi might have been sentenced to death long ago. For the sake of his younger brother, Chu Shi was temporarily locked up here, and his life and death would be decided after the official trial and the routine procedures. The most important thing now is to take advantage of the heat of the incident, build up Chu Han's momentum, and make the Sakura Kingdom pay a heavy price. It was already late at this time, and the celebration banquet was still going on, so Chu Han ran out to see his sister while taking advantage of the gap. Don't be afraid, sister, no one will do anything to you unless they kill me first and walk over my dead body. But having said that, no one can kill me now. Your brother is very strong. Haha, even you may not be my opponent. After you regain consciousness, how about we have a competition? I still remember when you were first selected by the Royal Knights, I quarreled with you and ran away from home. You thought it was my rebellious period, but in fact, my mental age was already very old at that time. Because before I came to this world, I had already lived in another world for 20 years. At that time, in my eyes, you were just a child. So I didn't really get angry with you, I just wanted to tease you, but I accidentally ran into the territory of the Blood Wolf and almost died. Fortunately, you showed up in time to save me. From childhood to adulthood, you don't know how many times you have protected me. This time, I will protect you. Don't worry, sister, I won't let anyone bully you. After speaking, Chu Han turned his head and looked out the window. The shadows of the trees are whirling, and the moonlight is very good. Chu Han drank the happy water in his hand and let out a long breath. By the way, the spoils haven't been counted yet. The thing that Yamata no Orochi exploded was picked up by Xiao Hei, and I don't know if this kid took it for himself. Opening the backpack, Chu Han checked it carefully. On the first grid, there's the staff that has been eating ashes for a long time, the ancient theocracy. If I level up too fast, this level 30 holy artifact won't last long at all. Behind the staff are 3 materials, Fire of Order, Millennium Ice Crystal, and Dark Gold Dragon Scale. This is the material needed for forging equipment, but Chu Han has not met a high-level blacksmith, otherwise he can try to upgrade the ancient divine power. Behind it is another piece of equipment, the Pure White Sword, which was a task item given to him by the head of the White Fox clan. I don't know when I will find the White Fox clan. During the period, Chu Han also inquired about the hidden missions, which are unique, and there is no experience to learn from, so they can only rely on luck to touch them. Looking further back, it was the prop, the Queen's Disaster. Chu Han already had absolute confidence in clearing this quadruple secret realm, but it was a pity that he could not unblock it for the time being. Xiao Zhou, you have to work harder, try to get me to the 4th level secret realm as soon as possible. Behind it is the props that can already be used, the Taboo Magic Stone. Chu Han is currently at the peak of the 6th rank, level 330, and has reached the conditions for using the Taboo Magic Stone. However, he still has no idea what to choose as a second career. It's better to give one at random. Sometimes having too many choices can make it even more uncomfortable. Forget it, the eyes continue to move, the rest are the spoils of this battle. Chu Han glanced at pieces of equipment that were glowing red, but they were not of the mage profession and could not be used. Chu Han was not disappointed when he couldn't get the mage equipment, he was used to this kind of thing. The last piece of equipment in that pile was Tian Kongyun's sword, which Chu Han had already seen before jumping over. What happened next surprised Chu Han slightly. Open black lens bracket pet beast egg, Yaki snake, close black lens bracket. Introduction. Not fertilized, unable to hatch, close black lens bracket. Chu Han blinked. Not fertilized. Oh. Chapter 188. Say what you just said again. Generally speaking, the way to obtain pet beast eggs is to go to the monster's lair to find them besides trading and buying them. It is common sense that killing monsters will not produce pet eggs. Where did the Yamata no Orochi eggs come from? It should be that Xiaohei picked it up by mistake when he was picking up the spoils, right? This is the only explanation, but that's not the point. Chu Han carefully looked at the introduction information, and the three characters, unfertilized, really surprised him. Can't even hatch, is this F*King so scientific? Can't the unfertilized snake eggs hatch? He observed carefully, the surface of the eggshell was dark gray and dull, and it really didn't look like it could conceive life. If it is fertilized, can it hatch? But, how to fertilize it? Is it possible that I still have to shoot at the snake egg? This is too perverted. Chu Han clutched his waistband tightly. If you have a chance, go to the Beast Trading Center and ask. Chu Han thought of the plump young woman Yang Shui in the Beast Center, and immediately became firm in his thoughts. It is very necessary to go there. Putting back the snake egg, Chu Han continued to look through the backpack and took out a ring emitting purple light. Props. Amethyst Lord of the Rings. Open black lens bracket level. Star close black lens bracket. Introduction. Vocational 7-turn certificate of the Mage Department. Close black lens bracket.
Hey, Chu Han grinned. The former evil god lost his job transfer certificate, a familiar scene. After playing with the simple ring in his hand for a while, Chu Han put it back. At present, it seems that the most important thing is to do the 7th rank mission. Tomorrow morning, I have to go to the job-changing temple to pick up the mission. Looking at the other things, there was nothing to arouse his interest. Chu Han left a few pieces of night equipment, and threw all the rest to Wei Suonen. Looking up, Chu Zai's eyes were still blank, and the vines on her body were like spirit snakes alerting her surroundings. Chu Han moved his eyes to the left, and looked out of the window from this angle, and he could see the bright lights in the banquet hall of Guling Mountain. The celebration banquet is still going on. Everyone was drunk, no one should have noticed that the protagonist sneaked away. Chu Han secretly smiled. And at this moment, he suddenly saw a haggard reflection on the high-quality glazed glass. FK. Chu Han's heart skipped a beat, he turned around abruptly, looked behind him, and heaved a sigh of relief. Master, you will scare people to death like this. Yao Shengyu, who was standing at the door, walked in with his hands behind his back. There is nothing to be afraid of, this old man is not a ghost. Your appearance like this is scarier than a ghost. Chu Han stood up from the ground. Why don't you make a sound at all? When did you come?
Yao Shengyu squinted at him. Since you were thinking about fertilizing snake eggs. Ahem. I'm not, don't talk nonsense. Chu Han hastily denied. Yao Shengyu didn't intend to continue joking with him, his old eyes looked back and forth at Chu Shi. Why, isn't the result ideal? When mentioning his sister, Chu Han also put away his indecent look, and nodded helplessly. She has fallen into the skill of the flower demon of the other side, the reincarnation of the other side, and in a short time, the old evil god will be resurrected in her body and occupy this body completely. I don't know how to help her get rid of it, even old Shen can't do anything. Master, can you help her? Hearing this, Yao Shengyu was noncommittal, his eyes lingered on Chu Shi for a moment, then he turned and walked outside. There is always a way, go and fill your stomach first. Chu Han looked at the hunchbacked old figure, hesitated and chased after him. Before going out, he suddenly stopped and looked back at his sister Chu Shi. Please, you must persevere and don't leave me alone again. Yao Shengyu only took 3 steps, and his figure flashed in front of the banquet hall. Chu Han spread out his wind spirit wings, crossed the almost deserted 5 arenas at the fastest speed, and finally caught up with the master's footsteps. Go in. Yao Shengyu led his disciples and pushed open the door of the banquet hall. In the hall, toasts were mixed, and the smell of wine was soaring, and people indulged wantonly in this atmosphere. Some people even started to talk about their glorious deeds of fighting Yamata no Orochi for 300 rounds by getting drunk, and slowly, they regarded themselves as the protagonist of this celebration banquet. The first floor of the banquet hall is very large, and it can accommodate thousands of people after it is fully released. The second floor is a relatively small circular pavilion connected to the edge by a slender corridor, as if suspended above the first floor. This place is relatively small compared to the first floor, but it can also accommodate thousands of people. Whether it is in the guild or the government, people with some status can add a seat here. At the beginning, these famous people were still limited to etiquette, but after drinking for 3 rounds, it became not much different from the first floor, and it was extremely noisy. Among these people, the ones who yelled the loudest were an old man and a young man. Shen Xingchen and Zhang Yi are like 2 rams in heat, fighting for the right to mate with the last you in the world.
stare at each other angrily, tit for tat. Under the booing of the drunken men, the two of them gnashed their teeth and wanted to tear each other to pieces. Old man, let me tell you this one last time. Chu Han is already the new captain of our 9th team, don't even think about arguing with me. When Zhang Yi was sober, he still had some respect for Shen Xingchen, but as soon as alcohol hit his head, he became the biggest person in the world. Shen Xingchen curled his lips and put one foot on the table with the same fierce expression. Little brat, what are you thinking? Chu Han is my disciple. I have arranged a position for him in the Shuling Church. No one can take him away. The two of them got closer while arguing, their foreheads touching. At this time, Luo Dang also came over with a wine bottle and said with a louder voice, "You two don't have to argue. I have already recommended Chu Han to join the Longwu department. He will be ours sooner or later."
Shen Xingchen and Zhang Yi turned away at the same time. Get out of here. Ha ha ha. The drunk Luo Dang didn't care, he grabbed the person next to him and clinked glasses with him forcefully. Shen Xingchen turned his anger on Zhang Yi again and said loudly, "Let me tell you, the position I arranged for Chu Han is an elder-level position. You can't compete with me." Zhang Yi was not to be outdone. What's wrong with the elders? Are they so awesome? The Shuling Church has been stepped on by the royal knights. Your elders are not as good as our captain. F***ku. Shen Xingchen yelled, "Are you deliberately trying to make things difficult for me? You've already found Chu Shi. Why are you using Chu Han as a bullshit captain?"
Zhang Yi, we have a captain and a vice captain, can't we? Shen Xingchen. Anyway, Chu Han is now a member of the Shuling Church, so there is no way he can compete with me. An old man and a young man kept arguing, and the electricity between them was electric. At this time, another person said loudly, "Everyone, listen to me. Since Chu Shi has been mentioned, I think there is something we have to face. This talented female knight is now possessed by the evil god of the past. It can be said that she is already a monster. So how should we deal with her?" Everyone's attention was drawn to the speaker, who was none other than Guo Lai, the president of the 100 Beasts Hall. The 100 Beasts Hall is a third-rate guild affiliated with the Royal Knights.
Logically speaking, it is not his turn to express his opinion on Chu Zai's trial, but what he said is what many people are now concerned about. Although the matter is difficult to handle, everyone actually knows very well that the key to how the authorities will ultimately try Chu Shi is how to define her current identity. If she still retains her original personality, she still has one life left. However, if it is confirmed that she has turned into the flower demon of the other side, she will definitely be killed immediately. At the celebration banquet, the Dongzhou city government and the Longwu department were present, as were people from the Department of Crime and Prison and the Criminal Investigation Department. No one gave a clear opinion on how to deal with Chu Shi. Of course, the big reason for this is because Chu Shi is Chu Han's biological sister. Chu Han had just beheaded Yamada no Orochi and was regarded as a young hero of the Dragon Kingdom. If he sentenced his sister to death at this time, it would be unjustifiable anyway, and it would be very difficult. So when Guo Lai brought up this topic, they all remained silent, waiting for the development of the situation. "President Guo, your 100 Beasts Hall is a guild affiliated to the Royal Knights, so you have something to do with Chu Shi. What do you think should be done?" Soon, someone asked. Guo Lai seemed to be waiting for this question, and immediately answered, "In my humble opinion, Chu Shi must not be kept, and must be killed immediately. We have all seen how terrifying Yamada no Orochi is. At this time, the flower demon of the other bank has entered the territory of the Dragon Kingdom. If it regains its strength, the consequences will be disastrous." Another person said, "Then Chu Shi is Chu Han's own sister. She has just become a hero, and she wants to kill her sister. Isn't this revenge?"
Guo Lai sneered, and said righteously, "These are two different things. Chu Han is a hero, so naturally he should be respected, but Chu Shi has become a monster, so he must be eliminated. Brother, if you say that, if it gets out, people will think that the heroes of our Dragon Kingdom have the privilege of protecting monsters." It was an indescribable sense of oppression. Everyone's eyes were attracted, but they didn't dare to look at him. "Say what you just said again." That man's face was sharp and his gaze was like an eagle's. He was the president of the Royal Knights, Yin Kai. An impassioned speech made the noisy scene instantly quiet. The people present looked different, but they all looked in the same direction. "So, we must kill it before it recovers. In my opinion, let's move fast, otherwise, when the flower demon on the other side regains its strength, our hero Chu Han may not necessarily kill his relatives righteously, and even stand on the side of the monster." His eyes were as deep as the sea, his eyes were calm, he slightly bent down to look at Guo Lai, and said coldly. There seemed to be a lion hiding in his eyes. Guo Lai didn't know when he sat down on the chair. When he recovered, his back and forehead were covered with beads of sweat. Finally, after what seemed like a century, Chu Han walked up to Guo Lai and stood down. "Chu Shi, you must die." Guo Lai thought it was his own words that enlightened others, so he couldn't help smiling triumphantly, and looked at a man on a high seat not far away intentionally or unintentionally, with flattery in his eyes. The young hero who killed Yamada no Orochi looked calm at this time, but he could feel that there was a violent wave surging in his body. At the other end of the slender corridor, two figures appeared there at some unknown time.
The chandelier elongated their shadows and spread them on the carpet. Everyone stopped what they were doing, even Shen Xingchen and Zhang Yi stopped arguing. Chu Han passed Yao Shengyu, and under the gaze of everyone, he walked step by step into the circular pavilion. He didn't dare to look further, so he looked away to observe the reactions of others. Chapter 189. The old bachelor is playing tricks, and the protection from the master. Huge pressure flooded in like a tide. Guo Lai moved his throat with difficulty, and sweat slowly oozes from his forehead.
The entire second floor fell into silence, and he could even hear the sound of his heart hitting his chest. In Chu Han's calm eyes, there seemed to be a hidden blade, which was about to cut off Guo Lai's trachea in the next moment. All eyes were on the two until another person appeared. It was a middle-aged man in his 40s, his angular cheeks were slightly rough, his eyebrows were thick, and his eyes were slender. The first impression he gives is that he is not easy to get along with. Brother Chu Han, don't be impulsive. The man patted Guo Lai on the shoulder, but looked at Chu Han. Chu Han looked up, slightly surprised. The man who came to rescue him was Yin Kai, the president of the Royal Knights. But after a little thought, it's not surprising. Guo Lai's Hall of Beasts is an affiliated guild of the Royal Knights, and he can be regarded as Yin Qi's subordinate, so it is reasonable to come forward to help him at this time. Guo Lai breathed a sigh of relief, sweat dripped down like beans. Yin, President Yin.
Yin Kai waved his hand and continued, Brother Chu Han, although President Guo's words just now were offensive, they are indeed a problem we should face. Chu Shi was trained by my Royal Knights. I am also very heartbroken that she had such an accident. However, we can't be blinded by our own feelings. This will only give that hateful flower demon an opportunity to take advantage of. That's right, with support, Guo Lai became active again. President Yin is right, to kill Chu Shi. No, to kill the flower demon on the other side. There is no delay, it must be executed immediately. After finishing speaking, he still didn't forget to cast a provocative look at Chu Han, trying to save some face for his gaffe just now. Chu Han sullenly looked at the two men in front of him. Yin Qi's mind is not easy to figure out, but this Guo Lai seems to be really not quite right. Judging by his performance, it seems that he is deliberately targeting his sister. Could it be that they had conflicts before? But Chu Han knew his sister well. She has a Buddhist personality, she doesn't fight or grab, and she won't easily offend others. And you, the president of an affiliated guild, are not qualified to have a conflict of interest with captain-level cadres, to be honest. So why on earth? The flower demon of the other bank. Hee. President Yin is so sure that Chu Shi has completely become the flower demon of the other bank. A dry and hoarse voice came, and everyone couldn't help looking at the long corridor. Yao Shengyu's body was slightly bent, he stepped forward, and with a flash of his figure, he came to Chu Han's side. Pulling up a chair and sitting down, Yao Shengyu looked up, as if he was still waiting for Yin Kai to answer his question. The latter's face was full of astonishment, his expression was abnormal, and there was a trace of doubt in his slender eyes. Obviously, he was not prepared for Yao Shengyu's sudden appearance. Except for him, everyone present fell silent again after the white-haired thin old man appeared. Unlike when Chu Han appeared just now, this time silence reveals a sense of shock and fear. In their eyes, Yao Shengyu is like a ferocious tiger in old age. Although he is old, he has already frightened the mountains and forests with his residual power. Old Yao, what do you mean by that? Everyone has seen Chu's eyes situation. Many people saw him attacking two professionals. Yin Kai said weakly, his momentum obviously overwhelmed. Over the years, although in the eyes of the world, the overall strength of the Royal Knights is higher than that of the spiritual church. But Yin Kai never dared to speak loudly in front of Yao Shengyu. After listening to Yin Qi's words, Yao Shengyu gave a shriveled laugh, and then looked around at the crowd. According to President Yin's intention, if I kill you all now, will I also give this old man a evil god of the past? Hat. Damn, I really started to play an asshole. Yin Kai couldn't help but have a headache. This old guy is a famous old bachelor. If he wants to reason with him, he might as well save his saliva and count the money. After listening to Yao Shengyu's words, the others were even more frightened. If someone else said this, they would all know that they were talking about it. But from Yao Shengyu's mouth, he might really kill him. What's going on? Even Yin Kai didn't jump out to protect his shortcomings. Why are you joining in the fun at the spiritual cultivation church? Is it because she is Chu Han's sister? Does Chu Han have such a big face, to let an old man of your status do this? Did he block the atomic bomb for you? Yin Kai was silent for a moment, then said bravely, Old Yao, I don't think it's necessary. He simply lowered his posture into the dust. On the side, Zhang Yi was full of displeasure, seeing that the president of his family was being crushed, and even his face felt dull. And Shen Xingchen was very happy, thinking that the teacher is the teacher, really awesome. Tun Tun took another gulp of beer. Immediately, he gave a detailed account of the battle with the bewitching fog demon at the bottom of the sea. Chu Shi suffered this catastrophe at first because she went to hunt and kill the flower demon on the other side. It belongs to eliminating harm for the people and deserves praise. As long as we can confirm that there is a chance to rescue her, of course we will fully support it. No, Chu Han interrupted him, it's not a delusion, but a personal experience.
Yin Kai frowned and said, "It is most necessary to deal with the old evil god who is about to regain strength. Yao Lao, Chu Shi is dead, her body is just a shell, and now she has no human consciousness, because she is just the flower demon of the other side. Then what do you think is necessary?" Yao Shengyu continued to exert pressure. A big cauldron was thrown over suddenly, and the representatives of the Department of Crime and Prison and the Criminal Investigation Department glanced at each other, and then said. Yin Kai narrowed his eyes slightly. It would be the best if that's the case, and the chief of the Prison Department and the Criminal Investigation Department are also here. I believe they will deal with it fairly. Brother Chu Han, I can understand your feelings. You must be missing your sister so much, that's why you have the illusion that she is still human. To be honest, when I first met Chu Shi, I felt the same way. Feel. Yin Kai chuckled. To be honest, this doesn't mean anything. Maybe the flower demon of the other bank accidentally helped you just to absorb the power of bewitching the fog demon. At that time, it was my sister who controlled the vines to extend into the mist predicament, and then helped me kill the bewitching fog demon. Of course, Yin Kai replied without hesitation, as long as it is confirmed that Chu Shi still has human consciousness, we will desperately save her and help her get rid of the control of the old evil god. However, this is impossible.
So, according to your President Yin's intention, as long as Chu Shi still has his own consciousness, he will not be punished, Yao Shengyu asked. Wait. Chu Han interrupted again, if I can prove that my sister is still conscious, what will you do? Why is it impossible? Chu Han suddenly said, my sister is not dead, nor has she been completely controlled by the flower demon of the other side, she still has her original consciousness. After speaking, he glanced at Yao Shengyu quietly, seeing that the other party didn't intend to speak, he continued. Okay, this matter. With the guarantee from Yin Kai and the government, Chu Han's eyes were like torches, and flames danced in his pitch-black eyes. Alright then, come with me, and I'll prove it to you. Yin Kai exhaled secretly, as long as Yao Shengyu didn't speak, his pressure would be much less. Then, he took a deep look at Guo Lai. You also want to come. Chapter 190 Children are ignorant, playing for fun.
Seeing Chu Han's leaving back, Yao Shengyu also stood up from his chair. He was still thinking about how to help him, but the little grandson came up with his own idea. Well, let's see how capable he is. Thinking in his heart, Yao Shengyu stepped forward to follow. Seeing this, some other people who were eager to eat melon stopped immediately and returned to their seats obediently. Just now Yao Shengyu said that he was going to kill them, it is better to stay away from this old man at this time. In the end, only Yin Kai, Guo Lai, Yao Shengyu, Shen Xingchen, Zhang Yi, and two representatives from the Department of Criminal Investigation and Criminal Investigation were the only ones who followed Chu Han out of the banquet hall. The rest were some high-level officials. Under the gaze of countless gazes, a dozen people followed Chu Han's footsteps out of the banquet hall one after another, passed through 5 arenas, and went straight to the grocery store of the hotel, where Chu Shi was detained.
Chu Han stood still in front of the magic circle. The tips of the vines on Chu Zai's body were burnt black again, obviously she had struggled again just now. Don't worry, I'll rescue you. Chu Han felt pain in his heart. Chu Han, you can do whatever you want to prove. People here will uphold justice for you and Chu Shi. Shen Xingchen looked around and said loudly. Yin Kai also echoed, that's right. Chu Han turned around, glanced back and forth at Yin Kai and Guo Lai, and then took off his robe. The Dragon Soul Saint cloth took back the backpack, leaving only ordinary clothes on him. Everyone was a little stunned, not knowing what Chu Han wanted to do. The last time my sister helped me, it was because I was in danger, so this time, our situation reappeared. After speaking, he faced Chu Shi again and sat on the floor. Old Shen, please attack me with your strongest skills in front of my sister. What? You? Shen Xingchen's expression changed drastically, and then he waved his hands. No, you are just messing around. Chu Han grinned, and looked at Chu Shi with flickering eyes. Don't worry, I trust my sister and won't just let me get killed. Shen Xingchen was firm. Absolutely not, what if she. In case she is indifferent, please find us a place with good feng shui, and don't bury us too far away. And you don't need to blame yourself, this is the only thing I can do for my sister. Do it, master. Facing his sister's dull gaze, Chu Han's eyes gradually turned red, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Is he afraid of death? Of course I'm afraid, but only by leaving no way out in this way can he really feel the threat of death. The fearful breath he exudes may stimulate Chu Shi and make her react. Shen Xingchen was a little bit crazy, he never thought that the biggest problem of this matter would fall on himself. I just drank and bragged, didn't say a single extra word, who did I provoke? He scratched his hair in pain and looked to the side. Everyone looked at him with different expressions, and no one could come up with an idea. Immediately, he had an idea and grabbed Luo Dang. I'll give you 100,000 gold coins, you go and kill that kid. Luo Dang was stunned for a moment, then smiled wryly. I'll give you 200,000, you'd better do it yourself. Ah, Shen Xingchen casually picked up a folding stool and threw it against the wall. Out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly caught sight of the teacher Yao Shengyu standing against the door.
Looking over with old eyes, Yao Shengyu nodded invisibly. This seemed to give Shen Xingchen a dose of reassurance. Although he is a bit rebellious, on weekdays, he has absolute trust in his mentor. The teacher nodded, so why hesitate? Isn't it just to kill an apprentice, what's the problem? Think of it as an early Chinese New Year. Shen Xingchen grinned his teeth, with a ferocious expression, as if mustering up all his courage, he opened his arms and raised them above his head, and with a snap, he clasped his palms together. Finally thunderfall, click, the black light flickered, and a black lightning as thick as a child's arm gathered above Chu Han's head. The 9th level lightning spell, the ultimate single target damage skill, this skill without any personal grievances, is enough to kill Chu Han. The crispy mage of rank 6, with this move, 10 times of death is not enough. Chu Han closed his eyes, and the corners of his mouth trembled slightly. He felt the powerful aura of the heaven-reaching demon art. Following Shen Xingchen's chanting like a devil whispering, the black lightning slowly squirmed like a python. He looked at Chu Shi almost begging, but the other party remained indifferent. A few seconds later, the chanting was over, and the mysterious thunder followed. Click, boom. With the mysterious thunder empowerment, when the black lightning was about to strike Chu Han, Chu Shi finally made a move. The 2 strands of vines condensed into spiral cones and broke through the enchantment of the magic circle. One of them protected the top of Chu Han's head, hit the profound thunder, and immediately turned into ashes, canceling each other out with the profound thunder. Another strand of vines whipped Shen Xingchen horizontally. Shen Xingchen was overwhelmed with surprise, and hurriedly applied a shield to himself to block the damage from the vines, but his body was thrown several meters away. When Chu Han heard the movement, he suddenly opened his eyes. His chest heaved violently, and 2 lines of tears finally fell down. There's such a thing. Yin Qi's expression was flat, no joy or anger could be seen on his face. When the others saw this scene, they all had their own thoughts and didn't show it. Only Luo Dang laughed wildly with the alcohol that had not dissipated, and the shaking ceiling creaked. Shen Xingchen patted the dirt on his body, and returned to the crowd. How is it, everyone, should I give an explanation? What's the matter? What does this mean? Guo Lai shouted at the top of his voice, everyone has seen how ferocious this flower demon on the other side is, and even Elder Shen was almost injured. We can't wait any longer, we must execute immediately, kill Chu Shi, no, kill the flower demon of the other side. Shut up. Yin Kai couldn't stand this stupid subordinate, and yelled in a low voice. Guo Lai pursed his mouth and drooped his eyebrows. He was very wronged, but he didn't say anything. The representative of the Criminal Investigation Department took a step forward and said respectfully, Elder Shen, don't worry, I will make a detailed report on what happened today to my superiors. The representative of the Department of Crime and Prison also nodded. Long Kingdom will not treat any warrior who has contributed to the country badly. As long as there is a glimmer of hope for Chu Shi to be rescued, we will do our best. Hee, that's good, President Yin, how about you? Shen Xingchen pointed the finger at Yin Kai. Yin Kai spread his hands and smiled. Of course I'm fine. Chu Shi has hope of surviving. As the president, I should be the happiest one. Oh, of course, the degree of happiness is second only to Chu Han. Shen Xingchen hummed, and ignored him. The representative of the Criminal Investigation Department continued. About Chu Zai's trial, we still have to go through the subsequent procedures. I hope you can tell the truth about what you saw. Immediately, he nodded to Shen Xingchen and signaled, Elder Shen, do as you please, we'll go back first. Shen Xingchen turned his head to look, and the teacher had disappeared. Guo Lai kept screaming for help, and those who walked in front stopped and turned their heads. Under Shen Xingchen's half pushing and half blocking, the people continued to move forward. In front of him, Chu Han was condescending like a ghost demanding his life, looking terrifying in the dark corridor. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Children are just playing around. Let's go back and drink. Debris and blood exploded in the air in the corridor, accompanied by Guo Lai's screams like killing a pig. He fell to the ground covering his head. The veins on Chu Han's arm bulged, and every time he hit it, he used all his strength, and the blood immediately splashed on the wall. Boom, boom. So, amidst rhythmic pounding and screams, a group of people left the hotel. Just as he was about to say something, he saw a figure suddenly flash past him, chasing after the crowd who had just left. You want to kill my sister, don't you? Viscous red blood flowed out from between the fingers, and Guo Lai struggled to retreat. With sharp eyes and quick hands, Shen Xingchen strode over, opened his arms to stop everyone. Anyway, everyone knew why Chu Han beat Guo Lai. Now that things had developed like this, even the president of the General Assembly Yin didn't say anything, so no one was going to meddle in other people's business. Shen Xingchen blinked, and saw that Chu Han was holding a folding stool, catching up to Guo Lai in 2 steps in 3 steps, and then raised the folding stool in his hand high. After speaking, he led a group of people out. Boom. Chapter 191 again and again and again. The lights were dim in the empty corridor. It was already dark outside, and occasionally a few birds landed on the branches outside the window, and then they were startled away by another wailing sound. Chu Han was panting, and the folding stool in his hand was in tatters, with almost only the twisted iron frame left. In front of him, Guo Lai collapsed on the ground, his face swollen like a pig's head, and he looked much more honest. Don't mess with me, don't mess with me, I know how to poke me. His lips, as red and swollen as sausages, squirmed, making a begging sound. Chu Han threw the iron frame aside and squatted down with a cold face. Why are you targeting my sister? This is a very important question. If it was just because of conflicts of interest in the past that Guo Lai behaved the way he did before in order to take revenge, then that would be okay. But if he was instigated by others, the matter would be much more serious. Some people want Chu Shi to die, but now that they have failed, there may be more sinister means in the future. Facing Chu Han's question, Guo Lai turned a deaf ear, pretending not to hear it, and kept moaning. It wasn't until Chu Han raised his fist again that he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Don't fight, don't fight. If you fight again, someone will die. Then answer me quickly." Chu Han squinted at him. "Did you receive orders from someone?" Guo Lai rolled his eyes, said nothing, and just nodded. Chu Han continued to ask, "Who?" Guo Lai was silent. Even though he is like this, he still dare not say it easily. He seems to be a big shot. Chu Han had a guess in his mind. Is it Yin Kai? Guo Lai remained silent. Chu Han swung his fist again. "Don't make any guesses, that lord is not something people like us can afford to offend." Guo Lai's eyes flickered, fear flowing in his eyes. "Higher than Yin Kai." Chu Han frowned. "My sister went to hunt the flower demon on the other side. This was a conspiracy in itself, right?" Guo Lai nodded. "I don't know much, but your sister is indeed just a pawn for others." Hearing this, Chu Han's eyes turned cold. "Who is it?" Guo Lai trembled all over, but he still spoke stubbornly. "I really can't say that even Yao Shengyu, your president, can't compare to a person of that level. If I am beaten to death by you, it will be easier for me." After saying that, he closed his eyes and was completely shaken. Looking at Guo Lai, who accepted his fate, Chu Han fell into deep thought. What kind of person is it that Guo Lai would rather die than dare to betray him? Moreover, it seems that his status is even higher than that of the master. However, the other party should also know that what he is doing is shady, so he can only use some dark methods. Now that Yin Kai has compromised, the Department of Crime and Prison and the Criminal Investigation Department are also paying close attention to this matter. In addition, people from the Longwu Department and the Spiritual Practice Church are here, so forgive him for not being able to play any tricks. In a short time, sister should be safe. He must find a way as soon as possible to help his sister get rid of the control of the flower demon on the other side. As for Guo Lai, to be honest, Chu Han was originally murderous. But then I thought about it. Now that I and my sister have established a heroic image, people are willing to help. If she kills someone to vent her personal anger, it will arouse some people's dissatisfaction, and it will do no harm to my sister. Guo Lai can't make any waves anymore. Even if the big man behind him wants to make trouble, he won't use Guo Lai's line, so whether he dies or not is not very important. Thinking of this, Chu Han picked up Guo Lai's collar and threw it out of the corridor window. With a height of 5 floors, with his professional physique, he would not fall to his death. The corridor was quiet again, and Chu Han returned to his sister's room. The enchantment of the magic circle has recovered on its own. Those vines rushed into the formation just now, and they were also seriously injured. At this time, there are few intact vines. Chu Zai's gaze was still dull, and her eyebrows were slightly frowned, as if she was in pain. Chu Han looked at his sister carefully and sighed slightly. At this moment, the sound of slow footsteps came from outside, and Chu Han turned around and walked outside. Ni Li walked towards this side with 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. He supported a man and let the other man's arms rest on his relatively thin shoulders, which seemed to be a bit difficult. And the man's face was swollen into a ball, covered with blood, and he was crying while being carried forward by Ni Li, obviously in severe pain. Seeing Chu Han approaching, Ni Li stopped, took a breath and said, "Chu Han, you are indeed here. I came here to look for you. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw this man accidentally fell down, so I helped him up. Do you know him?" Chu Han looked intently, and met Guo Lai's gaze, who cried out with an "ah," and cried even harder. He wanted to struggle, but his limbs were in unbearable pain like being cut by a knife, and he couldn't even move. I threw it down. Chu Han blinked and said calmly. Huh. Ni Li also blinked, embarrassed. Chu Han walked over and briefly explained what happened before. Ni Li suddenly realized. Oh, so he is Guo Lai. I said he looked familiar, but I didn't recognize him when he was so swollen. In the banquet hall, when Guo Lai spoke out to attack Chu Shi, Ni Li was there, but he didn't follow afterward, so he didn't know what happened here. At this moment, he finally understood that when he helped him upstairs, the other party cried not because of the pain, but because he didn't want to return to Chu Han's side. But it seems a little impolite to forcefully bring him back now. I'm sorry, Ni Li said apologetically, then helped Guo Lai to the window, grabbed his ankles, and kicked him down. Stretching out his head to take a look, seeing the other party squirming on the grass, Ni Li felt relieved. What did you come to see me for? Chu Han looked at this scene with a smile, and asked immediately. Neely brushed off the dirt rubbed on his clothes by Guo Lai. It's nothing wrong, I'm just curious about something, and I want to ask you. After a pause, he continued, have you decided where to choose? Chu Han was at a loss. What to choose? Knowing that Chu Han was not there at that time, Neely repeated what Shen Xingqian, Zhang Yi, and Luo Dang said when they were fighting for Chu Han. The Royal Knights wants you to be the captain. Elder Shen promised to give you the position of elder. Even General Luo of the Dragon Armor Department wants to snatch you. This is so cool. What about you? What do you think? I looked with my eyes. Chu Han had an expression that had nothing to do with me. I'm not in the mood to think about this, I have to find a way to save my sister. Upon receiving this answer, Neely put on a smile on his face. So, you won't quit the spiritual cultivation church for the time being? Chu Han nodded. Why quit? I still have to stay here to eat the old man. It's great. Neely was very excited. Then, will you continue to participate in the upcoming Zhengwu Grand Ceremony? True martial arts ceremony. Chu Han almost forgot about it. Isn't the game suspended? Neely clenched his fist and said, I heard the news, the game will resume soon, I can't wait. It is really exciting to be able to continue to participate in this grand event, but Chu Han can't arouse any interest at this time. I probably won't participate, let the elders choose someone else, but, speaking of the competition. Juniper, why didn't he come? Neely scratched his head. I called him before I came, he should be here soon. While talking, the sound of footsteps came from the stairwell. Chu Han and Neely looked at the same time. Soon, a hulking figure stepped out from the corner of the stairs, it was Juniper. He was tall and strong, and he appeared in front of the two of them with great excitement. And in his arms, he held Guo Lai, who was covered in blood and looked loveless. Chapter 192. In the south of the Dragon Kingdom, burn the ancient lotus. Boom. Throwing Guo Lai out of the window again, the three looked at each other and smiled. But when he heard that Chu Han would not participate in the next competition, Juniper's face suddenly collapsed. Chu Han, how can we win without you? Chu Han smiled helplessly. You have grown up too, you have to learn to face difficulties alone. Appropriately cracking a joke, he pulled a tomahawk from his backpack and offered Juniper a deal. This is the equipment dropped by Yamada no Orochi, you can use it. Looking at the level 320 purple artifact battle axe, Juniper's eyes were filled with light again. After the game is over, we'll return the equipment to you. Neely said with a concerned tone, Chu Han, is there anything you can do about your sister? Shaking his head in disappointment, Chu Han sighed. I can only ask the master. Don't worry, there is nothing in this world that the president doesn't know about. Neely comforted. Hope so. After the three separated, Chu Han came to the edge of a cliff behind Shenglong Villa. Standing here, you can see the busy traffic of the city, which is a good view under the night. Master. Chu Han stood still behind the bony old man and called softly. The mountain breeze was blowing, and Yao Sheng's feathers fluttered, adding a touch of immortality to his hunched figure. After a while, the old man turned around, with a smile in his old wrinkles. Well, it feels good to be a hero, doesn't it? Chu Han shrugged. It's not that old Shen is too lazy to paddle all over the place, otherwise it wouldn't be my turn to kill Yamada no Orochi. Thinking of this, Chu Han was indignant. You have to educate him well, you must criticize him seriously. Yao Shengyu smiled hoarsely. Don't you understand what he's thinking? It's just paving the way for you. Let me give you the opportunity to perform, so that the position of elder can be passed on to you logically. Master, I don't want to think about this right now. Chu Han whispered, my sister's matter is not over yet. Yeah, Yao Shengyu was not surprised, and responded lightly, so you came to me because of your sister. Yes, master, please show me another way. How can I help her? Chu Han asked sincerely. If the nine-turn fortune teller, who is connected to all things, can't do anything, then Chu Han will be completely hopeless. Yao Shengyu walked a few steps and sat down on a bluestone. I have already made a divination for you about this matter. Hearing this, Chu Han's eyes lit up. As expected, the master is reliable. One master is worth 100 masters. Master, tell me quickly. Chu Han was full of anticipation. This time Yao Shengyu didn't give a shit, and said bluntly, go to Burning Julian, its lotus heart has the effect of reshaping the soul, can help Chu Shi regain consciousness, and even absorb the power of the flower demon from the other side for his own use. Reshape the soul. Chu Han muttered these words, suddenly feeling a little dazed. If I remember correctly, what I traveled to was not a fantasy world, but why do these words sound so similar? Yao Shengyu explained. The so-called reshaping of the soul is to reset the user's occupation, attribute, and level to 0, and then change the occupation again. What kind of shit is reshaping the soul? Isn't it just restoring the factory settings? Chu Han knocked on his forehead. If you want to say that, I understand much better. But, where should I find this burning ancient lotus? Yao Shengyu slowly raised his head and looked up at the starry sky. In the south of the Dragon Kingdom, there is an ancient nation named Nanjiao. This ancient tribe originally belonged to the Dragon Kingdom. Later, the era of job transfer for the whole people began, and the world was in turmoil. Every country experienced division and reorganization to varying degrees. The Nanzhao clan took advantage of this opportunity to establish a political power and establish themselves as a country. If you want to find the burning ancient lotus, you have to go to Nanzhao Kingdom. It's so far. Chu Han murmured. There is still a dark crisis on the sister's side that has not yet been resolved, and he is really worried about running so far. Although it is safe for the time being, but I don't know how long it will take to go, and it is difficult to guarantee that there will be no accidents. Master, let's discuss something. Can you let my sister be placed in the spiritual practice church, and then lend me a period of time for Lao Shen? Chu Han leaned forward with a smile. If you want to ensure that Chu Shi will not be assassinated, you must let her stay in a safe place, and find someone who you can trust and who is strong enough to guard her. As for the place, the spiritual cultivation church is the most suitable place, and the candidate must be Shen Xingchen. As the chairman, Yao Shengyu has a lot of affairs, so he can't always think about Chu Shi. Shen Xingchen has been idle all day long, so I just happened to find him an errand. It's okay to stay in the spiritual practice church. As for the rest, you two, master and apprentice, can discuss it yourself. Sleepiness hit Yao Shengyu, and Yao Shengyu yawned. Chu Han hastily and sensibly helped the master to get up. Yao Shengyu stood up and suddenly asked, Chu Han, what level is it now? Chu Han replied truthfully. Level 330, I have obtained the voucher for the 7th transfer, but I haven't had time to pick up the job transfer task yet. Yeah, Yao Shengyu folded his hands behind his back, and he couldn't tell whether it was admiration or disappointment. The next moment, he took a step and disappeared in place. Accustomed to the master's ability to shrink the ground into an inch, Chu Han was not surprised, even if he left the cliff and ran in the direction of the banquet hall. At the end of the celebration banquet, it has become a grand event where people drink and brag, and no one cares whether the protagonist is present or not. When Chu Han rushed over, the banquet was almost over, and only a few scattered people were left, supporting each other and going out. Looking around at the door for a while, Chu Han quickly spotted the familiar figure. Shen Xingchen's face was flushed, and his face was radiant. He exchanged greetings with a few old acquaintances, sent them off, and then looked at his little apprentice. Why? No one was killed. He is still worried about Guo Lai's survival. Now is a very sensitive period for Chu Han and his brother. It is not wise to kill someone. He is really afraid that Chu Han will be blinded by anger and act stupid thing. Chu Han had a playful smile. It's okay, even if I beat him up, his face is just a little swollen. That's good. Shen Xingchen patted his chest and was about to breathe a sigh of relief when Chu Han continued, then threw him down from the 5th floor. PFF'd. Shen Xingchen almost spit out the wine he drank all night, his eyes widened in horror. 5th floor. Throw it down. But after thinking about it, although these words sound scary, for a professional, falling from the 5th floor would not easily kill him. But Chu Han nodded wildly proudly. Well, I threw it 3 times. Shen Xingchen. W opening parenthesis DW. Chu Han giggled and said, don't worry, he won't die, I have a sense of proportion. Old Shen, I came to you because I want to ask you something. Shen Xingchen took a deep breath. Tell me, what's the matter? Chu Han recounted the conversation with Yao Shengyu. After Shen Xingchen finished listening, he stroked his beard and thought carefully. It's okay to help you take care of Chu Shi, but are you sure you want to go to the ancient Nanzhao country alone? His expression was serious, full of worry. Chu Han was agitated by him. Why, is Nanzhao kingdom very dangerous? That's not true. Shen Xingchen waved his hand. I just heard that although the place is not big, luxury prevails and the wine is charming. I'm worried that at your young age, you won't be able to resist indulging in it. Hearing this, Chu Han was very disdainful, and snorted. Wine is attractive. Hee hee. Don't worry, I don't like drinking.